Well, good, happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, everybody. On the way to the bar, I found somebody that I think is going to be a pretty. Where did he go? Well, that's a perfectly liquored up live thing to happen, isn't it? Give me 1 second here while I get you added back in. Bear with me. All right, there we go. All righty. So
Howdy, howdy.
yeah, that's a perfectly liquored up way to begin, I feel like. So, yeah, I got Branden from JustTheGems. I found him on the way to the bar. He hadn't been here for a while, so we're gonna chat a little bit
It
as we
has
make
been a while.
been too long, and had to get
Yeah.
you in at least one more time before I fold the bar up. Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, had to get it's Branden from JustTheGems. I'm gonna let him tell you a little bit about himself, and then we'll get rocking and rolling here.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm Brandon, Just the Gems, YouTube. We talk about primarily JRPGs on my channel. And we have a lot of fun doing it. So I'm really glad to be here.
One of the better JRPG channels you guys can check out. So, like, if you guys haven't already subscribed to this guy, definitely check him out. What you drinking tonight?
It's a little very special Hennessy cognac.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm down to my last dregs of it, unfortunately,
Yeah,
but
a couple
I
weeks
think I
ago,
think it'll
yeah, I burnt out mine too. My Hennessy XO went the way of the dodo, so I had to grab something else. So I am drinking the good stuff with you. Some of the really good stuff. I've got a Lefroy 30-year single malt. It's a Scotch. So
there you go. That's the stuff.
good drink, good company, hard to beat. So I don't know what you've been up to. What you been playing? What's your thing been going on lately?
Oh, what have I been up to? Just making videos, man, like trying to keep up the pace, and it's at some point I'm going on vacation here in a couple of weeks, so I'll have a week or so off. So I'm front loading some content so that I can keep things going, keep the mill churning, while
Absolutely.
while
You
it
going
lives.
anywhere special?
Yeah, going to Cancun just
Cancun.
for
Oh my gosh, that's such a fun city.
yeah, just for a few nights, just to get away during the cold weather.
Is it,
Never traveled during the holiday season before, so that's going to be something. But
oh, it's
yeah,
it's 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 pretty fun. First time going?
yeah, first time for both me and my wife to go. So
Awesome. Take lots of
yeah,
pictures.
looking
There's
forward
lots
to
of
that.
fun to be had there.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, just playing games. What have I been playing lately? Fantasian was the most recent one that I have been playing. Fantastic game from Square Enix. And yeah, I mean, whew, I've it's been one thing after another. I have not had much of a break and all that. So,
is
but
that is that is that a Sakaguchi joint?
it is. It is.
Yeah,
It's the newest Sakaguchi game, and I can't tell you, man, how like growing up with that stuff. I cannot tell you how good it is to play a Sakaguchi game. Like I like modern Final Fantasy fine. I don't have any problem with it, especially as a concept. But there's something special about that man's work that just speaks to me on like a primal level, and playing through a game that could easily have been Final Fantasy X back in the day. You know what I mean? If it had
oh,
gone into
now you've got me
play,
peaked. Okay.
is just it's very interesting. I really have enjoyed it.
Last one he worked on, I think the last one he helmed, and again, I could be mistaken on this, but was it 7 or was it 9?
I believe it was 9. I don't know exactly what his role was.
Because I know 8 was
If
another, that was Katase, right?
Yeah, I don't know if 9, if he was just in like a supervising producer role or what. And
Yeah,
then
I know the
similarly with
last one I
10.
know he had heavy involvement with was 7.
Hmm, hmm.
Like I know for sure
Yeah,
he basically he was the director on that, but
and he was I'm pretty sure still had quite a hand in 9. And then 10 I think was as he was starting to head out the door because of the movie flop.
Right. Yes. Oh, gosh, I'll tell you, Japanese business culture takes so many amazing minds away from us too soon. Gunpei Yokoi
I
was the
know.
other one.
Gunpei Yokoi, I was just gonna say, man, like they had him doing trade shows, and to punish him for the Virtual Boy, they made him try to sell this thing at trade shows himself, and nobody wanted it, and it was
And
just
by the
not the
way, he
way.
wasn't even the helmsman behind the Virtual Boy.
Yeah.
It wasn't even necessarily him. He was the pitch guy, but he was not the mind behind the Virtual Boy. Anybody want to guess
Hmm.
who actually talks a lot of credit? I don't know if he's entirely to blame, but he in modern Iwata ass during the Wii era took a lot of credit for it, and it raised my eyebrows greatly because of what happened to Yokoi. Anybody want to take a guess as to who claimed a lot of Riz on the Virtual Boy?
I hope you're
I'm
not gonna
sure we
say
can all think
Miyamoto.
of a 3D obsessed developer at Nintendo who is
Oh.
obsessed with 3D. It's Miyamoto.
Wow.
It's Shigeru Miyamoto.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you can't bat 1,000 all the time, I
You
guess.
can't.
Sometimes
And
you
again,
can.
and I'm not, even if it was him, I don't think somebody should be. And again, that's the difference between that business culture and here, our business leadership, our executive leadership never fucking gets punished. Ever gets.
They basically just screw up and they
Whereas,
just keep
whereas
going.
over there, if you do bad enough, like again, they try really, really hard not to fire anybody. But
Hmm.
if there is a bad enough perceived failure, they will absolutely gank you.
Hmm.
And yeah, it leads to tragedy sometimes. I think Sakaguchi was a victim of that. I know Yokoi was a victim of that. And I mean, I guess Mistwalker Studios. That's one I really, really need to get into. If I can
Man,
ever find a way to play Lost Odyssey, I hear that game is amazing.
that's
I hear it's
that's what
got
I've been
like
told.
100 short stories that are by themselves worth playing the game for. Like
Hmm.
outside of the
Yep,
rest of
yep.
the game, just the little short stories, the vignettes on mortality and immortality are just
Hmm.
amazing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Fantasian uses a similar system where there are like it'll fill in backstory with like these little narrated short stories, and it seems like it's maybe just becoming a signature style for him now.
Well, yeah, and I'm told Lost Odyssey in particular, like as philosophical as I can get, I'm told that Lost Odyssey is something. Before I die, I've got to find a way to play it. I'm told.
Yeah, same. I mean, I have it. I should just finally do it, but like I said, I've been so busy, been game after game, so you
Well,
know.
and I got to tell you, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about, I'm sure, at some point tonight. You have chosen a niche that tends to really sink a lot of time out of you, haven't you?
Yeah. That's very true.
It's
That's
not like
very
the
true.
Electric Underground where he plays fucking arcade games and he can. Now the way he does them is very in depth, and he will take those
Hmm.
things apart. Which I love Electric Underground, but it's a little bit different than having every single fucking game that you have to review or talk about be like a 40 to 100 hour experience, right?
And then, God forbid, you say that maybe some of these games are too long because people will lose their minds and be very upset.
I stood and applauded, Brandon. I didn't think you were going to go that route, by the way. And after watching that video, I'm like, no way. I'm like, I've talked to this guy enough. There's no way he thinks this. And then, sure enough, I stood and applauded because, oh my god, you got to think about it from my perspective as an old guy, an old man. I think
Hmm.
Brandon has some old man in him too.
I do.
So back when I was growing up, a game like Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 3 for the uninitiated, the Super Nintendo, that to me was as big as I thought a game would ever get. Um,
So massive.
that was a massive game, and you can beat that game if you don't do everything in 30, 40 hours.
30 hours. Yep. 30
You
hours
can
for
you
sure.
can beat
Hmm.
that game. So I thought to myself, I don't know if video games should ever get bigger than that. And it's the Ian Malcolm observation, which is, hey, you were so preoccupied that you didn't think about whether you should.
That's very true. And
And
you
so
know the thing about Final Fantasy 6, just as an example that you bring up, it's a 35 hour game. It feels so much longer. Even replaying it, I replayed it several years ago. and it feels like a much longer, bigger game than it actually ends up being,
Hmm.
because none of that 30 or 35 hours is wasted.
No.
There's no there's no wasted padding thrown into that game. So it's like, my argument in my video that we're referencing is just that too many times developers treat playtime as like the metric to hit. And so to hit that, they throw as much repetitive, kind of pointless, quote unquote, gameplay in there as possible, just to stretch out that time. And it's like, if you make use of a smaller amount of time, but make it more meaningful, I feel like that's, to me at least, that's a better experience. I don't know.
Oh, and I think honestly, the fact that, look at the way these games are still analyzed, talked about, debated. They have legs, and part of why I feel like there's absolutely no filler to it is, look at the. I think Final Fantasy VI is a master class in pacing. I think Chrono Trigger is another game like that.
Yeah, for
Where
sure.
it's just like, think about in the first half hour of Final Fantasy VI what you do. You get the intro cutscene. You um, get the Moogle battle. You get Terra's rescue. You get a cavern excursion into Nar to Figaro Castle. You get the sack of Figaro Castle. You get the castle sinking into the sand submarine. You get fleeing through the mountains to go find your brother. You get a battle with your brother Sabin's rival. That's
Hmm.
within like a half hour of that game if you're pushing
Hmm.
fast. Like,
Right.
it's a masterclass of pacing. Look at the dungeons in that game too. By the way, it's one of the
Hmm.
games that I feel like when we get dungeons in a lot of RPGs, they're just dungeons. They're just like wilderness places, etc. Look at the dungeons: an opera house, a train, a town. Um, the It's very, very cool how Final Fantasy VI did that.
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. It's creative, it's unique, and like, this is at a time when these games, when video games were barely out of the beeps and boops era, right? Like, you're going from, Final Fantasy to, I mean, from Final Fantasy to Final Fantasy 2 or 4, in America, was just like mind blowing. And then the jump from 4 to 6, from 2 to 3, was just like, how, like, this is amazing. This is just incredible what they're doing here. Like, that introductory cutscene you mentioned, that was like one of the most graphically amazing things any of us had ever
Oh my
seen.
gosh.
So it's not just like that it was, had good storytelling or good pacing. It's like they were pushing it on all fronts, graphically, musically, storyline, like everything was just so well put together. Now,
Yeah.
you know, I understand that if you were to, like, have that same story told today, chances are there would be voice acting, more cinematic cutscenes. So that first half hour would be a little bit different, right? It would take longer to get through those things.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Gonna be
because
a
when you're
tutorial.
reading something, there would of course be a tutorial, because there's no manuals anymore, so you'd have to learn how to play the game. And so it would be different. And I've kind of, I don't have a problem with the pacing of a lot, most modern games. I get that it's just a different world now. But there's something really special about just having, I don't know, having that story presented the way that it is. It's
It's
just
brisk.
grips you right away, and it's so
It's
quick.
it's got no
And
time for bullshit.
mhm.
Yep, it's got absolutely no time for bullshit, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Now I mentioned the Electric Underground earlier, and he'd had a video that that like is kind of a 1-2 punch, like your video. And then the other video I recommend on this topic is, again, because keep in mind, Electric Underground does a lot of your arcade games, shoot 'em ups, beat 'em ups, things of that nature. And he does a feature on gameplay density and how gameplay density oftentimes is to him a better experience for the player than necessarily gameplay length. So instead of shooting for length, maybe have an experience that only is 5-10 minutes long, but make it the width of a puddle and the depth of an ocean. It's kind of like any
Mhm.
good arcade game, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not necessarily saying JRPGs should do that. I mean, they should be JRPGs, but there's a lot to learn. I think the best JRPGs are games that do a couple of things. The first is that they're going to put world building first. Again, a take that I have found out is a pretty hot take, not necessarily nuclear, but it's that world building actually is over gameplay in almost every kind of game. If it, you know, it's right what Richard Garriott used to put on his black boxes at Origin Systems. We create worlds, and if your world isn't interesting, I don't care how good the gameplay is. Why the fuck am I here? Why do I want to explore it?
Hmm.
And in fact, a interesting, compelling world can oftentimes by itself save a bad narrative or bad gameplay. The other thing that I think is very important in terms of, games standing the test of time and the best JRPGs is gameplay density. I think it's there. I think of a series like the Trail series. That the Trail series, like, you could beat Zero in half the time I spent in it. You could. You 100% could. But the density is there for the people who are genuinely interested in the world. I mean, literally, every time you fucking sneeze or turn around, every time the clock moves forward, you can literally talk to every single NPC in that world and develop their side stories and their personalities, and they'll give you th- uh, dialogue and flavoring on what is going on in the world outside of the main. It's really cool how they managed to
Hmm.
do that.
Yeah. Well, and that's because that deep puddle analogy, it scales really well. Like you can say, for an arcade game, yeah, you want just like short bursts of intense fun playtime, right?
Right.
But for like a JRPG, you scale that up and you say, maybe you want 60 hours of intense fun gameplay and story, and you're not filling out that time. You're not widening it further with monotony or, just
Right.
repetitive actions that are not that aren't doing anything from a narrative perspective, aren't doing anything, from a gameplay perspective in terms of being fun. And that was kind of my criticism of the Persona series, which was kind of the crux of the video. And I said this in the video, but I think most of the people that were mad didn't really actually watch it. Um, I love the Persona series. I legitimately love the Persona series. Um, and the reason I think that people didn't watch it is because a lot of people said, well, if you don't like it, don't play it. It's like, well, I said I love it, so I don't know. I'm not sure how else to phrase that. Um, but in Persona, so much of the playtime is spent pushing a button to choose what is essentially an option from a menu to make a stat go up, or increase a quote unquote relationship, invisible relationship meter with a character. And most of the time, those character relationships, even that you're building in these side stories that are just filling out the time of the game, they don't influence the main story at all. They might as well take place in a separate universe.
Right.
They're never referenced, they're not part of the narrative. They're just like side stories in the purest sense of the term. So my thinking is that you can still have all that stuff if you integrate it into the main narrative of the game, make it matter, make it part of it. And then it doesn't really bother me. But the fact of the matter is, so much of these games, and not just Persona, but a lot of games, is just this repetitive content meant to increase the playtime. And for some people, that increases their perceived value of the game. I've had people say, like, I'm not going to play any game that's under 20 hours because it's not, quote, worth my time. And I'm like, what do you mean? What if you had an amazing 20-hour game experience? That's not worth your time? Like, I love experiences like that personally. If I can get a nice tight 20-hour game experience, that's something to
Yeah, what
cherish
the
in my
fuck?
mind.
Like,
I love that stuff.
I can't even imagine that mentality. It's like, have you ever watched a fucking movie, bro?
Right. You go see a movie, you're spending almost your more than like your cost per hour, if you want to look at it that way, which I don't I understand why some people on our podcast, the JRPG Pursuit, we just talked about this. I think
Yeah,
an
and I
episode or
saw
two
Emily's
ago.
got a video out also kind of broaching that subject. I still got to watch that, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yes. So we yeah. So like some people are approaching it from a financial standpoint where they only have X amount of dollars, maybe a month that they can spend on a game. So they want a game that's going to occupy their time more fully, right? But to me, like if that's your situation, I would rather maybe invest that money in a game that is just more fun to play, right? Like just eating up the hours of my life is not, to me at least,
No,
it
it's
doesn't
junk food.
seem like a good use of money. Right,
It
it's junk food.
it's junk food. It's a 6-pack of beer, man. Like
Mhm.
that's the thing. And I mean, there's utility to that 6-pack. There's utility to that bag of
Sure.
McDonald's.
Nothing wrong with a
But
six pack or a
I,
McDonald's
I'm
every now
sitting
and then.
here.
Sure.
I'm sitting here sipping right now a whiskey that took 30 years to develop.
Hmm.
This whiskey was literally put into a cask in the 1990s.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, this is better than any 6-pack I've ever drank. This is a better sip than a 10-year whiskey. It's a better sip than a 5-year whiskey. It's a better sip than a 15-year whiskey.
Hmm.
Sometimes the good things in life take time.
Hmm.
That's the thing. I get it from a budgetary perspective, but every once in a while, it's good to splurge, especially when we're talking about video games where there's not even a cost associated. You're not going to pay $500 for that game that has that added depth to it. You're going to
Hmm.
pay the same $60. You might pay less because a lot of those games we're talking about are fucking retro games, right?
Sure.
So,
Retro. And yeah, I mean, games are on sale all the time, especially on Steam and whatnot. So, if you're gaming on a budget, my encouragement is look for still, treat yourself well, Don't just go for those junk food experiences all the time. Nothing wrong with it every now and then. I like a good, junk food experience, whether it
oh
be clean
yeah,
or
I
literal
love a good
McDonald's
Kharkov
every now
vodka.
and
I love it,
then. Hmm.
but I can't drink Kharkov all the time. It would fucking literally kill me. Like that's the thing. Um,
Yep.
go for some depth, guys. I would encourage you. Don't just look at it in terms of those empty calories. Look for if you're gonna eat the calories, look for some good calories. That's all I'll say. I'm playing a game called Faith right now. It's called Faith: The Unholy Trinity. It's a horror game, and it's Atari aesthetic. Now you couldn't do this on the Atari 2600, but that's the aesthetic of the game. And Brandon, I'm telling you, brother, like the amount of things that you can do in this game, it's incredible. And I won't spoil. I'm going to probably play it on stream at some point because it's just so good. But not only is it thought provoking from a horror narrative, but there's just so many things that you can do to impact how everything turns out in terms of your exorcism or your story. And there's lore and there's depth to it and there's notes to read and some of those notes impact what happens. It's literally like you know how Silent Hill has those things where the subtle things you do impact the ending you get. Think
Yeah.
about that, but in like a 4-bit, 8-bit perspective, right?
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, it's out there for everybody. It's just a matter of kind of changing your perspective. Like, oh my gosh, like I'm watching another good example of this. Although gourmet fucking garbage, I got to tell you, I'm watching Riverdale right now.
Riverdale. Sure.
Riverdale is insane. It's fucking insane. It is absolute trash TV garbage, but I gotta tell you, it is gourmet garbage, guys. It is endlessly entertaining. So again, those empty
Was this
calories.
was this an Eye Patch Wolf recommendation?
Yes, yeah, John's the one that yeah, he made a couple videos on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I presented him and Willie versus with Kill 6 Million Demons, which was recommended by my friend V. And in return, it's like, okay, but you got to do Riverdale. And so it's like, what the fuck do I want to watch this teen drama show for? Like I saw his videos on it. Like it's a wild show. It's fucking
Uh-huh.
crazy. But I gotta tell, but I never thought it was something I would get into.
Yeah.
And so I finally took the plunge, and I gotta tell you, this show don't stop. Once you get on the ride, there is so much shit going on that you can't get off the ride. So I'm right now. I'm in season. Minor spoilers. Not that any of you fuckers are ever gonna watch this show. Um, I'm in season. I just ended season. I just went into season 6. I think it's season 6. I've lost track. So Archie has just gotten his main villain, who is his girlfriend's father, Hiram Lodge, the billionaire who owns the town and owns the jail. That's a reference. There's a time when like Veronica gets home and her dad's home and she's like, "Dad, I thought you were in jail." He's like, "Veronica, I own that jail." Like, this is a fucking guy with a picture of himself over his desk. Like, I love
Sure.
this guy so much. So he's been banished from the town. And so they said, you're out of here, because that's how it works. You can just get together in a parking lot and be like, Hiram Lodge, you are out of here. And so he left in disgrace. But as him and his girlfriend Betty are getting ready to have sex, he hears a ticking. Hiram Lodge has left a time bomb underneath the bed. And the time bomb goes off. And next thing you know, Archie wakes up and he had fought in a war. And this time bomb actually split the space-time continuum. And now there's River Vale, which is like a horror-themed Riverdale, and there's Riverdale. And so in Riverdale, there's a new guy named Pickens who wrote an article about how bad of a town Riverdale is. And Archie wants to fight him over this article he wrote, this op-ed piece. And so they have this debate, and it turns out that this Pickens is the 2,000-year-old evil wizard and genocidal general who founded the town of Riverdale. And his goal is to basically
Wow.
make the town miserable to where he can stuff all of these miserable souls into a ghost train to bring about the end of the town or something weird like that. I don't know. I'm not kidding you. All of this is shit that
Wow.
like I could not believe, and this is way past what Eye Patch Wolf talks about in his videos. And I'm just like,
Hmm.
how the fuck did we get here from a guy who couldn't figure out which girl he wants to sleep with and had stage fright playing his fucking guitar? How did we get here? Anyway, I don't know. I don't know what that tangent. I don't know how we got here, but watch Riverdale if you guys get a chance. Just do it.
Yeah, I think we got there because the idea that sometimes garbage can be good and fun and
Garbage can
enjoyable.
be good. Yeah, the six pack can be
Yeah,
a fucking
yeah,
hoot. Anybody who's
yeah,
ever done
for
a
sure.
power hour knows that their empty calories do have merit. But I just
Sure.
want to urge people that, yeah, also look for that depth of gameplay, because, oh my God. I got to play a game called God Hand a few weeks back.
Okay.
And it's a beat 'em up that Electric Underground talks about a lot. Oh, it's so fun. It's so much fun. And I just think to myself, if beat 'em ups were like this, we would actually have AAA beat 'em ups again.
Mm.
Like, we'd actually have like the 3D AAA beat 'em ups. You just don't see that often anymore. I think the last one that it was an indie effort, it was like Sifu, which was also really good.
Yeah, I heard good things about that one. When did God Hand come out?
Oh, let me check on that. Yeah, God Hand
Was it
PS2
like a
is I think what we played
was it
that on.
PS2? Okay.
2011.
Okay.
Yeah, that game came out in 2011, which is fucking wild to think about.
Hmm.
But yeah, I want to play. I want to play Fantasian, and I did, and I'm with you, by the way, about Persona. I want to get back to that too. I also really enjoyed my time with Persona 5, but 100% that game is 100 times too goddamn long.
Hmm.
Like that game just doesn't respect your time. I think I clocked it like 150 hours by the end of
Yeah,
Persona
that's not
5 Golden.
uncommon.
Like, what the?
Not uncommon. Yeah. Yeah,
And
I would love to see a version of Persona that is like the respects your time version and just like cuts through the fluff and just gives you the meat of the experience, because the meat of that experience is great. I love it. I just could do without. the
Well,
monotony.
what does it tell you when you got the load screen? It says take your time, and like little do we
Right.
know, they're not talking to us. They're fucking. That's like a fucking admonition for themselves. You know, they're 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 reciting that for themselves because you guys absolutely
That's
fucking
right.
take your time. You are reveling in this. You're rolling in that time, man.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know what it is, and the best arc of the game is still the first arc. I'll fight anybody over that. Kamoshida is
Oh,
one
the
of the
gym teacher.
all-time great video game fucking douchebags.
Hmm.
I hated that guy, and I don't think they ever topped him.
I agree. I agree.
Like I
He's
think to
a
myself,
strong start.
oh,
Hmm.
extremely strong start, and it was impossible to top. I think to myself, like, okay, what could we do to just make the whole game in that school, right? We've obviously got
Right.
enough heart changes in the fucking school. You've got Kamoshida, and everything could be like a linchpin to taking Kamoshida down and make Kamoshida the big bad, right?
The
So
ultimate,
Kamoshida's
right?
kind of the goal, but let's look. You've got Mishima possibly, who's like the little narc shithead who leaked your shit. You've got the student council president, who's kind of a bitch at first, and like you could make her a little bit more corrupt, change her heart. You got Principal Kabayakawa, absolutely needs a heart change. You've got maybe some of the parents, some of the more influential parents, that are protecting Kamoshida for whatever reason. They could get a heart change. Like you could have done the whole game in that school, making Kamoshida the big bad. Like I think they kind of blew their load early on that. But other than that, it's a fine game, and the villains are all pretty good for the most part. Um,
I think you could have still made a compelling story in the game, but I know the sense that I get is that the story that they wanted to tell was like complete societal reformation, and so
mm,
they have to touch on
right.
education, the arts, government, and so they're
I
hitting
get
all
it.
of these different like major tent poles of society or whatever. But I mean, there's a lot of compelling story. Just you're right, contained within the
Oh,
walls
especially
of the
with
school.
Japanese student culture. Oh my gosh, there's so much to
Hmm.
say about that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Like 100%. Let's take a quick look. Let's not let comments get away from us like we sometimes do. Let's see here. So Brooke draws first blood. Hello, the Duchess has arrived. What's going on, Brooke? Welcome in. Inferno Fox Gaming says going to be a good show tonight. It's always a good show. It was a great show with you on. Yeah, hell yeah. Welcome in, Inferno Fox. Brooke Barnes says can't wait. Rush Dog, evening, gentlemen. Rush Dog in the house, and Rush Dog guesses Miyamoto. 100% correct. Yeah. Rush Dog says Fantasian is already on sale in Canada for like 20% off. That's good to know because I haven't got it yet. So I might actually get to save on a fucking game this time. Kojima was a victim of that too. So, yeah, to an extent, Russ. So Kojima's complicated, right? So on one hand, I think they absolutely hated Kojima and they absolutely blanketed him for the failure of Metal Gear Solid 5 and Metal Gear Solid 4. Because I know they didn't ship as much as those games cost to make. They just didn't. Especially Metal Gear Solid 4, which I think at the time was the most
A
expensive
console
game.
exclusive on the PS3, like that
That,
is not a
yeah.
good
And I don't think they
not a
ever
good call.
forgave him for that. And to be fair,
Yeah.
and trust me, coming from me, everybody knows how much I hate Konami. Coming from me, this is pretty wild. But I've got to tell you, as a business executive looking at that, like again, it was their job to rein him in, and they didn't. But at the same time, holy shit, man. Like the way Kojima develops games, I don't know if you can do that at any modern AAA company. I just don't. I think he takes too long. I think he's too exacting. I think he's too weird, to be frank. It's all the things that we love Hideo Kojima for. But you can
Sure. Yeah.
understand why Konami didn't love him anymore. I can completely understand that. At the same time, the way they treated Kojima, the petty Betty way they did it, um, was disgusting. Was
Yeah.
absolutely disgusting. And I'll never forgive them for killing Silent Hills ever.
I know.
And then absolutely just nuking the PT trailer where we can't have it anymore.
Right.
Like, never forgive them for that. Silent Hill 2 is pretty decent. I'm not. I've got my qualms with it. It's a step in the right direction, but Konami, you got a long way to go, guys. You just do.
The apology tour is only just beginning.
Now, I'll tell you what. Kojima is one of the most interesting people in game development. He's one of the actual. I don't follow that many industry people. I just don't because I don't find them very interesting. Um, I find Hideo Akira Toriyama or not Akira Toriyama's fucking Dragon Ball Z. God, I'm drunk. Akira Yamaoka is I follow him because I think he is a musical genius. I love his music.
Mhm.
I do follow also Hideo Kojima. You can find so much interesting stuff. The stuff he reads, the stuff he's watching. I love his spirited movie reviews. He's a huge fan of cinema. Don't we all know it? Like he's just an interesting person. I've pointed out before, like if you were to play any Metal Gear Solid game, like you can play Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, and that game takes place with the Sandinista movement in Costa Rica. And just by playing that game and reading all the codex entries, etc., you will get a history lesson on Revolutionary era Costa Rica. You will absolutely get that. And so you can tell that Hideo Kojima, what he was reading just by what he's putting it in the game. So he's a person that's well traveled, he's well read, and I'm a big proponent of the fact that interesting people make interesting art. And so that's even if whether you like it, whether you don't like it, I still don't know what the fuck that walking game is. I still don't know what the hell that is. I bet it's interesting as hell.
You're talking about Death Stranding, right?
Death Stranding, that's it. Yeah, I don't know
I
what it
it,
is.
it's a trip, man.
Have you
It's a
played it?
freaking. Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay,
It's a
what
trip.
do we think of it? Spoiler free, of course, but overall, what are your thoughts around it? Is it the Riverdale of video games?
It is. I mean, pretty close, man. It's bonkers. It is just. It's like one of the most crazy concepts for a story. Um, in terms of gameplay, it's fine. It's not changing anybody's lives. But it's good. It's competent, and the story is just so ridiculous.
Okay,
The sense of scale and the sense of it's almost got this kind of a dreamlike quality to it. It's very very cool. And I'm looking forward to the second one. I know
okay.
that's on its way. But it's very worth checking out if you are interested in sort of an avant-garde approach to, I don't know, just to video game storytelling. It's a fascinating game for sure.
One of the most compelling little games I've ever played actually was a game called Quap. And for a while, me and Rush Dog were like racing to see who could run the longest in Quap. And that was a fun time. That was in the Cold Nights Discord. We were doing that. I kind of get Quap vibes from the gameplay of Death Stranding. So here you are with this big hefty thing on your pack. Your goal is to walk, and so we can call it a walking simulator. But like anything Kojima makes, it's actually 1,000 times more compelling and complicated than just a walking simulator. Because there you are, you got this thing on your back. Your job is to get down that steep hill. Do you think you can get down that steep hill without falling and breaking your ankle? And then so you got to step and you got to step and you got to step. And my understanding is there's like a rhythm to the steps, and if you fuck it up, you will fall down. Like you
Yeah.
will spill. Like
Traversal is the gameplay, like getting your load of stuff from one place to another is the gameplay, and it's like you're a courier. You're basically a courier. You transport goods, and how you do it is largely up to you. You can invest in vehicles and other equipment to make it easier. You can load your backpack so high that it's like 10 times your height and kind of carry this super tall backpack as you run along. Um, but yeah, it's challenging and very non-traditional, we'll say, in terms of how the gameplay is presented.
that's pretty nifty. That's pretty fucking nifty, I gotta say. That's awesome. So now, you also had another video that you had mentioned where you think JRPGs are in a pretty good place right now. Looking into the future into 2025, I know we're going to have some macroeconomic dips. It's looking like coming soon. Global stability is still not exactly where we would all like it to be. It doesn't seem to be impacting JRPGs, at least not yet. Do you think that future
Not
is going
yet.
to extend for at least another few years, or how you feeling on the future of JRPGs, not just the present?
I mean, if we look at just 2025, there's a remarkable amount of stuff coming that looks very, very good. Um, a good portion of that is, to be honest, remakes and or remasters
I'm
of
okay. I'm not
existing, already
necessarily
very good
against that.
games. No, it's fine. I think it's good. Like there's Tales of Grace's F is one of the best Tales of games, and now it's going to have a chance to reach a modern audience, a bigger audience. I'm all for that. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake. Like they worked wonders with the third one. I'm really excited to see what they do with these two. Um, so there's a lot of, and then outside of the remakes and remasters, there's a lot of great games coming. Um, I think that any economic downturn, we're probably going to start seeing the ramifications of that maybe 2027.
Hmm.
I'm just thinking in terms of how development cycles work, and
Yeah, because a lot of it's
where
already they're kind of locked in.
yeah, like the games coming out in the first half of 2025 are very close to gold, if not, you know what I mean? Like they're just about ready to go. Latter half of 2025, some of those games, it's possible we might see some delays there if the economic situation affects the companies to the extent that they have to do layoffs. Or well, I don't actually know if Japanese companies can really do layoffs in that way unless they completely go under. I think legally there's some restriction on how they're able
Right,
to
right. No, and that's the thing.
sustain
Like I
people,
think the
but
JRPGs are going to be a little bit more. I think that's a good point. I think they're going to be a little bit more insulated than say the Western studios, just because of some of the protections that are there in Japanese business.
hmm
But in general, yeah, I think it's really going to impact Western. I mean, we're looking. If you look at like the geopolitical situation going on right now, decades are happening in days right now.
yeah.
It's incredible the kind of things that are happening. And
hmm
there will be ramifications for global markets on all of this. How that impacts the video games industry, I think is anybody's guess at this point. But yeah, we are living in the Chinese curse of living in interesting times. I mean, again, I want to say that because I think it bears weight. Decades are happening in days. Events that you would think would take years to accumulate are happening literally in minutes. What we just saw, what happened in Syria, literally happened in like a period of 2 weeks. Like something that was unexpected by anybody except maybe the actual shot callers. Like what the fuck? Um,
hmm
you've got that going on. You've got global supply chain disruptions with some of the cables being cut in Denmark, etc. Um, yeah, Damascus, absolutely, Mark. Damascus. I just saw that comment real quick. So yeah, just to skip ahead real quick there. Yes. You got a lot of stuff going on, and of course, the space I'm in. I think it's the least concern for a lot of people, but I do wonder how these things are going to impact how they're going to impact the global gaming market. Right.
Yeah, I have to think that in addition to, games potentially not seeing the light of day, which is a possibility when
Hmm.
things take that kind of a downturn, I also wonder if we're going to see increasing numbers of games that are really playing it safe, playing to the, what's considered to be the most marketable audience right now. If that's free to play stuff or the squad based shooters, that sort of thing. Like does that just continue to grow in influence and like footprint in the industry because we're so unsure about if games can recoup their cost of development? Like it's frustrating because you look at a game like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which to me is the one of the best games I've played in a
Right.
decade. And by all accounts sold well. Like it's a beloved
Ooh.
game and a lot of people bought it, and it underperformed to expectations, which says to me that two things might be happening. One, expectations are set unrealistically, or two, development costs are so high that expectations have no choice but to be set ridiculously, unrealistically high in order for a company to turn a profit. So the problem, as I see it, and this is something I'm sure I know you've talked about it, and it's something that we're kind of barreling towards in the video game industry. It's not sustainable. This
No.
triple A rush for the best, highest quality graphics, whatever. Like it's not sustainable. We need more studios with smaller budgets making smaller games that they sell for less money, and
And we're
you
not
know
even kidding.
yeah, and they don't take us as much time to complete, and that's fine, that's okay. Like, if a game is only $20 and I beat it in 10 hours or whatever, that's okay, that's fine. I'll play the next game, and I'll play the next game. And then the sales expectations for a game like that are realistic. Like they can turn a profit, and they don't have to sell a quintillion copies. They don't need every person on the planet to buy 3 copies in order to turn a profit, which is the model that AAA companies are using right now, and doesn't make any sense to me. Makes no sense. Like, you're just not going to sell that many. You're just not. There's
Well,
not that many people.
well, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a puzzle I've been trying to wrap my head around. Now, I'm mainly a Nintendo guy and PC guy, so I don't necessarily have a dog in this fight, but I've looked at that from every angle I can, and I don't know, Brandon, you're a smart guy too. Maybe we can put our heads together and figure this out tonight. What the fuck happened with that game? So you go from
Mhm.
Final Fantasy VII Remake, which to my understanding is one of the best selling, if not the best selling Final Fantasy of all time. Like,
Mhm.
I think that thing moved something. It was some insane amount of units that thing moved. Just insane amount of units. Like 14 million plus. I'd have to check it, but in fact, let me fact
Yeah, I'd
check
be
that
curious.
live. Yeah,
Be
I'm very
curious to know
curious.
what the count is.
Final Fantasy VII Remake sales. Okay. Um, 7 million copies that game moved.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's not tops or anything, especially when you calculate macroeconomics. But 7 million copies, and to go from that, what did Final Fantasy Remake sell or Rebirth sell?
So I don't know if we have the exact number right now, but
That's not
li-
good. If they're not
it's
reporting,
likely going to be a double digit percentage less than
fuck.
remake, and that's to be expected. I think Rush just said in the chat. Sorry to skip ahead again,
No, that's
but
okay.
like
Let's highlight
with
that. Yeah,
the way that episodic series go, each subsequent entry has a smaller. It's going to make a smaller impact, because not everybody that played the previous game is going to play the next, and people are not likely to pick up the second or third game in an episodic series
sure.
without having picked up the first. So it's going to be fewer sales.
Yeah,
So you have to that
that's
expectation.
sequelitis. Yeah, a little bit of sequelitis,
Yeah,
but
that
that
expectation,
fucking much? Because that's the thing.
it has to be
I
built
wanted
in.
to
Yeah.
blame it. I wanted to blame it on the PS5's install base, but here's the thing: if you look at the PS5's install base, you can't crack those fucking jokes anymore. You just can't, Brandon. It's
Hmm.
got a pretty decent install base. Like, you're gonna fucking tell me that of those 50 million PS5 players, they can't all still be in the hands of scalpers. Not now. Like, they can't be.
No, certainly
So
not.
there's got to be enough hardware out there, and you're gonna tell me that as dire as that fucking library is, that there's not people that are gonna pick that game up?
Well, and here's where
What
the
is going
expectations
on?
get a little crazy to me. This is where this gets crazy to me. If you think that the sales of Rebirth are 4 to 5 million, say, I don't know, maybe
Sure.
that's a realistic guess right now. 4 to 5 million. So you're telling me your game is in 10% of the possible install base, and that's not profitable? Like, what is going on? 1 in 10 people with this console were interested enough to pick up your game, and that is not enough for you to make a profit. Like, what is happening? You know what I'm saying?
That's what
Like
I'm
this
trying to
is
figure out because
that's crazy.
I don't think the dip should be as big as it is. I just don't.
Yeah.
Not given the actual amount of hardware that's out there now. Like, yeah, if you're
Mhm.
talking a couple of years back, yeah, it was a pretty dire situation hardware wise. But it's starting. You're starting to see PS5s out there that are available for sale. You're starting to see PlayStation 5s in households, and you're starting to get them into actual customers' hands. The word of mouth on Final Fantasy VII Remake, I've heard nothing but positive about that game.
Mm.
Like, again, I haven't played it, but I've heard nothing but positive. It's the same thing. Like if you look at Silent Hill 2 remake, same thing. It's like I can have my quibbles about that game, but if you look at the reviews and the word of mouth,
Mhm.
and overall players are happy with that game,
Right, right.
and that's also translating into sales for Konami. So what is going on at Square that they can't make this? I don't know. I think Rush Dog's onto something. I do, in terms of the sequelitis, but oh,
Mhm.
like I don't know. It seems really dire to me, and I hate it because from what I hear, it is a fabulous game.
It is. It is it's a love letter to the Final Fantasy VII franchise. And I it's not going to be obviously it's not going to be for everyone. No game is for everyone,
No,
but it is assuredly for me. So I am the biggest cheerleader and proponent for this series. Like I love the Final Fantasy VII universe. I've watched the movies, I've read the books, I'm fully immersed in the Final Fantasy VII lore, and to see it play out in a like a presentation that is as good as this series has been so far is like dream come true level. Like sometimes I feel like I dreamt Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Like I think back to playing it and I'm like, did that really happen? Like, did I really play that game? Because that feels too good to be true. Um,
I
but
hear it's
it's
really good.
real. It's true. Um, yeah, it's
It's on
you
PC.
know
I probably ought to start that. Now
remake is
now
yeah
that I'm
remake.
almost finished with Seven Original, I'm at the crater right now.
Okay, yeah. Once you finish seven, it's good to have that under your belt. But yeah, remake integrate is on PC. It is not on sale currently, so it's a $70 investment. But
I don't care.
it's a very good game. Very
I
good
don't
game.
care as good as I've heard about it. I'll probably just dive.
I may double dip and get it on PC so I can play it on the 4090 and see how it looks.
Oh, nice, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. Upper Nimbus says, "Sup guys? Hope you're all doing well. Doing great, Nimbus. Doing really good." And Rush Dog and greeting Nimbus. Nimbus greeting Rush. Same thing. Inferno Fox joining in the greetings, and Brooke, of course. Everybody saying hi, playing nice. You love to see it. Um, Rush Dog, are you going to mention gameplay density, Zoo? Yeah, funny you mentioned that. Yes, I did. Yeah, had to because it's such a good fucking video. Electric Underground, by the way, is another guys. Go check out Electric Underground. Like, if if in my older years I'm more into things like RPG games and visual novels and those experiences I used to literally laugh at and look down on when I was younger. Um, the the Electric Underground represents my unbridled youth. Those are the kind of fucking games that for most of my life I was drawn to. It was those games. There were JRPGs and there were exceptions like Ultima, Morrowind, etc. But I
Sure. Yeah.
loved those arcade style games, and I don't think there's a better content creator out there for that kind of content. Inferno Fox Gaming, Final Fantasy VI is a masterpiece. Yeah, it is frequently in my top 10 games of all time. Fox frequently, um, absolutely, and a top 10 is hard for me to narrow down. Usually, I'm in like a top 25 mentality, but Final Fantasy VI is definitely up there. Chill Collect, say what's going on, everyone. What's up, Chill? Thanks for dropping in, man. Everybody playing nice, wishing Chill in. Chill wishing everybody. Same with Rush Dog. Now, Rush Dog says Electric Underground is all about shmups, and world building really isn't that important to shmups. Gameplay over world building and shmups, full stop. So in a shmup, in a beat 'em up, I agree with that. Now, to say it's not really that important, I don't know about that. I don't know about that because look at a game like one of my favorites, which is um, Esprit Sai. there is a fuck ton of world building going into Esprit de Sai in the background that is really, really cool and makes it for a really interesting, compelling game to play. Now, would Esprit de Sai still be good without all that world building and lore? Absolutely. And can you play it without knowing shit about any of that? Absolutely. I did the first time I played through it in my review. But when you really dive into what's going on in that world, oh, it makes it so much more compelling to play in 100%. But I do agree that gameplay is king in terms of the arcade games. But you got to look at it also, Rush. What would imagine Super Mario Brothers without the Mushroom Kingdom? You can't. And while that's not an arcade game, that is a game that directly builds upon the Donkey Kong esque platformer arcade roots. So it's the next logical step. Same with a game like Zelda. The OG Legend of Zelda was kind of that best of both worlds, taking the computer role playing game and the tactile feel of an arcade game with the larger world building and longer gameplay of a game that is a PC RPG. And that's not my words. That's the Nintendo Fun Club newsletter from 1988, literally calling Zelda the best of both worlds. Look at a game like Metroid, which certainly has a lot of arcade sensibilities to it, and look at how compelling. You mentioned how pain in the ass that game is to play, but you're still drawn to the Metroid game. I'm still drawn to NES Metroid because of that dark, dank atmosphere. It's really, really cool. I think world building can enhance any game, even games that are don't necessarily need it. I still think it can enhance it greatly. Um, Rush Dog says City Mora has way more world building than Battle Garega. You tell me what the better shmup is. Battle Garega, 100%. But that's not, I don't necessarily think that it's because of a failure in world building. And again, if you were to dive into Battle Garega's world building, it might surprise you, Rush. But I can tell you from my experience with City Mora X, like those guys won't shut the fuck up. I just want to do some shoot 'em ups. It's kind of the same thing. There's a game called Dust and Elysian Tale, which is a Metroidvania. And I love it. It's got great combat, it's got a really compelling world and world building, but the characters won't shut the fuck up. Like just piles and piles and piles of fucking dialogue in those games. Same with Cinemora. So I don't necessarily think that it's the world that failed Cinemora. I think it's the fact that the characters won't are putting on a Jerry Springer episode for you in real time. And I just want to skip through all that shit so I can get back to the fucking shoot 'em up. And I just want to skip all the dialogue so I can get back to exploring this world in Dust and Elysian Tale. Freedom Planet's another one. Freedom Planet is a Sonic-esque platformer that's stopping you every 15 minutes to vomit out 30 minutes worth of cutscenes at you. Now, thank God they offer the arcade mode where they just cut all that story shit out. But yeah, the world building is compelling, but keep in mind that story is not necessarily world building. Story is separate from where they're in tandem, but they're not the same thing. And so I think you can way overdo the story in a game like a shoot 'em up and way underdo the world building. And I think that's what happened in City More X. It's got world building, but it also has story. And boy, oh fucking boy, does that game have story and dialogue. And I don't know. What do you think, Brandon? Thoughts? You're much more of a narrative and gaming defender than I. And what do you think?
I am. I mean, if I were sitting down to play a shoot 'em up, and the focus of the game was the gameplay, I do think I might get a little bit irritated.
Oh,
On a
shut
couple of different
up!
fronts. One, I would be irritated because I want to get back to the gameplay, and two, I'd be irritated because I might want that story in a different format. I
Yes,
might want the story to be in a role-playing game or as a book or as a movie or something. You know what I mean? Like, I
right.
might really enjoy the story, but I don't necessarily want it in that form.
The OG Mortal Kombat fighters shipped with a fucking comic book when you bought the console versions. So
Mhm.
yeah, like you're not going to get all that story bullshit in the OG Mortal Kombat games, but they give you a comic book to build on that world. And it's
Right.
there if you want to look into it. But yeah, the time to vomit out everybody's fucking struggle sessions is not right after you have a fight. It's not right after a hell of a firefight. And now it's time to have a struggle session. And it's time to learn everybody's fucking life story and family tree. Like, no, please. Dear God. It's like there's a time and a place for sure. Mark Oren Chuck says wave, and he's drinking. What you drinking tonight, Mark? Curious to see what you're drinking. See if you're drinking anything with us. And then Mark mentions he had Damascus. Yeah, buddy. Um, that is. I have many thoughts on that, none of which are relevant. So we'll just. I'll resist my drunken urge to vomit them out at you. It's just not relevant. But uh that's going to be interesting how that develops. I'll leave it at that. And again, I don't mind. I don't mind talking. Everybody knows I'm not shy to get political, but it's got to be relevant. You'll see that here in a little bit, by the way. But it's got to be relevant. It's got to be relevant, or there's no point, right? Elder Scrolls 6 has been in development for how long? Yeah, and I hope it fucking stays there. Um, because I'm terrified what they're going to do is they're going to do the in case of emergency break glass, and it's going to be in Morrowind. It's going to be in Morrowind province. Now, I don't think that. I honestly don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Bethesda has the balls. I think it's going to be in one of the human places. I don't think they're going to do any of the beast race places or the elvish places that are wild. They're not going to do it in Valenwood where the Bosmer live in migratory tree villages with these trees that move, like moving trees, like living trees. They're not going to do Morrowind with its strange ash and sulfur atmosphere and its strange bug wildlife. They're not going to do it in Alinor and Somerset Isles with the beautiful, magnificent crystal cities. That when we got them in Elder Scrolls Online, they were a fucking brick and mortar fort. Looked like you were in a fucking empire. Um, they're not going to do it in elsewhere with its green deserts. It's they're not going to do it. They're going to do it in High Rock or Hammerfell. It's going to be High Rock or Hammerfell. And it's not that High
Do we
Rock and
know?
Hammerfell. Oh, go ahead.
Do we know all of the regions of the world in the Elder Scrolls universe? Is
So,
that already?
yeah, we know. So, Tamriel's the most fleshed out. That's where all the games are going to be. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think a place like Akavir or Atmora should be left to the imagination. Like Akamora with its. Akamora literally has frozen demons that thaw out every fall and go to war with the Tangmo monkey folk of the Thousand Islands. You've got like the Capoton, which is a nation ruled by the Tash Raka, which is a tiger dragon, an immortal tiger
Mhm.
dragon that's made war with Tamriel. You've got the vampiric golden snake people, the Saci that rule the Saci nation. I don't necessarily think we. I don't. One, Bethesda's not capable of showing that much alien atmosphere, and number two, I don't even necessarily think that we should. I think that should be left to the imagination. But I want to see elsewhere. I want to see Valenwood. I want to see Argonia, this toxic
I
swamp that
mean,
is literally
they
impenetrable.
want they want to bring in new people, of course. So it makes sense, right? Like they don't want to set it in some place that's going to be off-putting to potential new players, right? Like as you were describing that, I understood like three words out of all of that description. So as an uninitiated, I feel like I would be like, what's
I get
going
it.
on
No,
here?
I respect
You
and get
know,
that. I do.
but
Um,
it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to incorporate some of that stuff in the game.
well, you
You
gotta
know,
look at the perspective of the Elder Scrolls. So Elder Scrolls really broke out with Morrowind. That's where it
right?
broke out. And so the expectation, so look at Cyrodiil, for example, which is the heartland of the Empire. Cyrodiil was a dense, um, it was a dense jungle, essentially.
Mhm.
It was a temperate jungle. And we didn't get that. What we got was pastoral European landscape because Lord of the Rings movies were popular then. Then look at
Sure.
Skyrim. Skyrim, once again, was a place of thawing snow demons that thaw out and attack every so often. It was a land where you had flying snow whales, ethereal snow whales, flying across mountaintops, right?
Mhm.
And what we got was, well, we got Vikings mixed with Game of Thrones because the show Vikings and the show Game of Thrones were a hit. So, what I want to ask you is, what is the fantasy that is popular? What's the poppin' bumpin' fantasy right now? And that's what Elder Scrolls 6 will look like. They will
Mhm.
bend High Rock and they will bend Hammerfell to look like whatever the popular go to fantasy is right now.
Yeah, is there a popular fantasy show right now? There's that Game of Thrones prequel that I don't know much about,
Yeah,
House of
so
the.
so for example, if that's the big popular show, if that's the big popular movie, that's what Hammerfell and High Rock will look like. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. They've done this twice now, ever since Morrowind. They've done this twice. Morrowind was the last original thing they ever spat out. Like, I have no faith in Bethesda whatsoever anymore. I just don't. But again, I'm an old hat. I'm an old hat, so I understand. You can't. Here's the thing. I don't super like those games, but I understand why they did it, and the sales don't lie.
Right. It's when
It's
you
Skyrim.
transition from being a company run by creatives that their number one priority is making a creative project to a publicly traded company whose number one goal is, pleasing shareholders.
I get it.
The priorities change, and it's unfortunate for if you're not a shareholder. It's unfortunate.
Well, it's working. Like Skyrim is like one of the best selling things ever.
Yeah.
I can't fault the decision. Like, I can hate it all I want.
They wouldn't let us forget about Skyrim, right? Every time we start to think we got away, they creep up on us, let us over the head with it.
But to be fair, we never got away. Like, there's a reason why they keep harkening back, because we keep fucking playing it.
We do keep buying it. Yeah.
Yeah, like it goes both ways. So again, I can't fault the decision, and I'm okay with that. Here's the thing. I'm okay with that because Bethesda, not only, this was back when Bethesda gave us the fucking game dev tools. So when they put Morrowind out, they didn't just put Morrowind out. They also said, hey, here's the same construction set that we used to build the game. Have fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did. And so that's how we get Tamriel rebuilt. That's how we're getting Province Cyrodiil, which is coming out. It's supposed to be out in October. Hopefully it'll be out by January. Really good. It's out soonish, I'll say. And with tools like Blender and AI and things of that nature that is starting to kind of help this trend out, you're going to start to see a radical transformation in the Elder Scrolls 3 modding community that already is full of love and lore, and it's great. So we don't need the good news is it's hard to hate what Bethesda's doing. They can develop. They can take 10 fucking years on the Elder Scrolls 6 for all I care. Probably won't even play it at this point, except for just a curiosity play, just like what I did with Skyrim. But we don't need them because they literally they handed us the tools, and in the great year of 2024, the year of Todd 2024, we have Blender, and we can now literally generate assets on the fly with Blender and tools like that, where before you would literally have to do concept art, and then you'd have to literally put that in Microsoft Paint, and it was a horrible pain in the ass. Blender just streamlines that shit. And so I'm excited for the future of the Elder Scrolls in Morrowind that is completely fan driven based on the lore that Bethesda has already put forward. And so it doesn't matter what they do with Elder Scrolls 6, because we'll always have Elder Scrolls 3. And as long as they don't break that glass and come up with a Morrowind remake and thereby send legal notices to all of the teams working on these wonderful mods,
right.
We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. There's always that danger, though, and that's why I don't want them to touch it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Brooke Barnes says, I just got back from my trip yesterday for going to see my uncle. Well, hopefully that was a good trip. How's he doing, Brooke? Is everything going good? And what did you do while you were there? Kind of curious about that. Rush Dog says, I worry that Final Fantasy Rebirth underperforming will result in the scope of Part 3 being scaled back. With episodic games, later episodes always sell less. Yeah. That is I hope not. I hope. I kind of feel like not that CEOs don't operate under sunk cost. Like, they will pull the fucking plug or scale something back in a heartbeat if they have to. Good CEOs will, sadly. But I kind of want to feel like the cultural impact of that game, there's a emotional sunk cost I'm kind of crossing my fingers for. And so that irregardless of what the sales are, like, not only the executives, but the creatives there just kind of look at each other and say, I know this sucks. I know that we're going to lose our ass. But in our heart, we got to finish this. We got to finish the story, goddammit. Yeah.
that's what Final Fantasy VII, the trilogy is it is a reward for these folks that have been with Square Enix forever, right? For
Right,
so
right.
long, for decades. And this is their like, okay, here's a blank check. Make the games, the series that you want to make, and it's fine. Just do it. So that's, I mean, I remember after Remake came out, there was the same kind of fear, hemming and hawing about how it was underperforming sales expectations, and that it was just a potential travesty in the making, and they were
Right.
going to cancel. I remember the rumors where some insider was like, "Oh, they're going to cancel the second two games, and it's just done. Like they're not going to do it." And then they come out with Rebirth, which is Final Fantasy VII remake to the 12th degree, and it's
I
just
can't
like
even imagine
it's
that.
it's so much more. And it's like, okay, like they are, I think they're committed to making it. And I think if they reneged on that deal, I feel like a lot of these high level influential developers that have been there for so long are going to revolt. Like this is their baby. This is a game that means so much to them, and they're revisiting it and doing the things that maybe they wish they could have done and couldn't do back in the day. Like to take this away from them would be more damaging to the company, I think, in the long run than a short term, missed profit expectation for a quarter, you know?
Y'all made Maximilian Dude cry live. Don't fuck that guy. Don't fuck with that guy. Like he literally cried on live stream. Like that's how happy he was. There is power to those games that they're making. Like just don't ruin it. Don't fuck
Do
it
it.
up. That's all I
Don't
got
do
to
it,
say
guys.
to him.
Yep.
So you got Cinemora is way too talky. And you're right about the world building enhancing shmubs, but I maintain that world building is a distant second to gameplay. And yeah, no, I don't think we disagree on that. No, I just want to be clear that I do think world building can certainly enhance that. Now I'm going to have to dig into Battle Garega, though. Like, watch Battle Garega. The story of Battle Garega is like he's fighting through all these people to get like this delicious pear that was stolen from his pantry or something. Like you watch that'll be the story now. I'll be like wah wah wah, but there's probably some deeper shit there. At least there was with Esprit Sai, and I really like that. Peter Cosmo says just the Jimmersons. What's going on, Peter?
Hello.
Welcome in. Rush Dog says, "Oh no, you've gotten Zeus started on Elder Scrolls lore." uh, now we could be here all
I
night with that. So now
Yeah, I knew as soon as it started, I was like, well, let's get comfortable, folks. We know what we're in for. We know what we're in for.
right. Monster says, "My brother in video games. What's up? What's going on, Monster? Welcome in." And the Monster says, "Final Fantasy VII-R will be fine. They'll port it to everything, and when the trilogy is done, it'll be everywhere. It'll be everywhere when we're all old." And that's true. Like they're gonna like remaster it for new systems, etc. And yeah,
Oh, sure.
and
Yeah.
those will be cheap. Like it is. I can see it kind of being a forever game as new systems come out for sure. Um, for sure. Or older. I don't know. Yeah, we're all old or older. Rebirth was so fantastic, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it was that kind of a visit. Okay, remember? Okay, I remember when I said he passed away last week. I went up there on Monday to view his body, and then went back to my aunt and uncle's house and spent the night there and visited with family up there. Well, hopefully you had a good visit with family, and hopefully you were able to lay him to rest. And that's never necessarily the most fun trip in the world, but if it brings everybody together, hopefully you guys had a good time on that at least, and got to kind of share stories and got to tell his tales and speak his wisdoms, right? For sure. So a lot of challenges in the games industry, right? We've
Yeah.
got the constantly evolving geopolitical and macroeconomic situation, which goes hand in hand. And then we've got bullshit like this. And I'm just going to read this verbatim to you, okay?
Okay.
So I had an interesting discussion, and this is going to end up actually being pigeonholed into a debate, which will be happening at least next Wednesday if this guy Senpai shows up. Me and Player Essence are going to be live, and we're going to be talking to a guy named Renown Zero. Now, Renown Zero, I don't have much of a problem with. I'm actually going to be moderating between him and OJ, and I'll probably be chiming in from time to time because this is about sales, and sales are my forte, right? So I'll definitely be chiming in. I think OJ's in the right as far as all this goes in terms of what we're about to talk about, but I'm I'm less concerned with the people spreading this shit, and I'm more concerned with how easily this shit is swallowed by people that are just fucking dumb. I'm sorry. I try to be respectful. You know me. I tend to have respectful conversations on here. But I don't know. I don't know how many which ways I can do this shit and be polite. So anyway, let's not bury the lead. So Renown Zero comes in and he's talking about Dragon Quest III HD remake sells more than 2 million units worldwide. Okay. So that's the story. And Renown Zero says no, it did don't no, it did not. How nice of you to leave out the context like a typical leftist. Units shipped and digital downloads, not 2 million sold. Thanks for playing. And so this is in response to me just saying, hey, look, looks like Dragon Quest III, which is one of my original RPG games that I played. I'm happy to see that doing well. Right? And so in response, OJ comes in and says, can't read, literally says it right here. And he just posts the story again. So at that point, this enlightened fan shows up and starts trying to brigade us and says, here's the difference between units and copies, which is some semantic bullshit. Like, oh, here's the dictionary definition of units, and here's the dictionary definition of copies. And I said, that's literally irrelevant to what we said or the discussion. You're definitely peaked in elementary school. And then he posts sells, and no, you just don't like what I'm saying. Oh, and this is the difference between ship and sell. And then he posts the dictionary definitions of sells and ships. Never mind, you fucking mental brainlet. Never mind that if you're shipping them, like, you must think that these copies are just being shipped into the fucking Scythian abyss. Like, where do you think they're fucking going, idiot? I'm sorry. Where do you think they're fucking going?
There's something you can look at the trends of how a game is performing.
God damn it.
Either online or how it's doing in terms of store sales, and look at those shipped copies and say, yeah, based on the current trends, those shipped copies are all going to be in people's hands before too long. Like, that's why they're shipping them, because they're selling, you know.
Well, and that's
not like
and so
case where it's not like a case where back in the PS2 era they shipped some copies of like Rule of Rose out to stores and nobody bought them and they sat in bargain bins and then got destroyed, right? Like, it's not a case of that. It's a case of these games it's selling really well, and that's why they're
no, it's not.
So many units.
No, it's not. Leftist. Snowflake.
Oh, is that because you choose type A or type B? Is that why it's a leftist?
We're gonna get into it. Yeah, I don't want to bury the lead, but this is, oh my god, my head's never hurt so bad in my life. So I try really hard to reach this motherfucker, Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
And so he says, more coat from a cult of snowflakes who live in a fantasy. You all lost. Get over it. So I don't know what the fuck I lost.
Not clear.
Not clear. It's like, what the fuck did we lose? We're talking about sales.
The argument, like,
I don't know. I said, if moving 2 million units on a game that even adjusted for pop increase never sold this on its OG run is losing, whoever needs to win. And I had like a laughy face. And this enlightened one, this absolute season 6 Rick and Morty brain, big brain, comes at me and says, no real fan wants the changes that you all give it, and units are not copies. And no, it's actually sold more copies in the original run than it did now, but keep trying, which, no, it didn't. The original run was in 1998, dumb fuck. Paint your face, clown. It absolutely did not. 1988, when Dragon Quest was just getting off the ground. No, it didn't. It sold 1 million copies in its original run. Adjusted for pop increase, that's like 1,766,000 if you adjust for the pop increase. Now, there's other adjustments you can make, close markets, the Iron Curtain, etc. There's all kinds of different, because in 1988, very different world. But even doing the basic macroeconomics, you're not going to get to like over 2 million copies that this game is sold already. Now, Dragon Quest 3 did end up doing, by the end of everything, and this is if you count the 1988 game and if you count the 1992 remake, which was only in Japan, it ended up doing something like 5 or 4 million copies, which back then, that's a world beater, man. This game was a
Right.
cultural phenomenon. I'm not denying that. This is the game that
Oh yeah.
literally led to laws being passed to where a Dragon Quest game couldn't come out during the work week. That's because of Dragon Quest 3. So,
Yeah. So
nobody's denying cultural impact on this. That's a different discussion. If
I'm still trying to wrap my head around this leftist thing.
we're gonna get, yeah,
Like let's I'm very
nothing
curious
I'm
about this.
saying
Like,
is
I'm trying to-
leftist, Brandon. Nothing I'm saying.
it's
Like, in
just
fact, you could accuse me of being the other way. I'm like, this is executive talk, evil king of numbers shit. Like,
right.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about with, yeah. And again, part of it is the things that Dragon Quest 3 remake has been accused of. And he's just off in another world having another discussion. But I said it sold over 1 million copies on its launch period, homie. And I posted the statistics. I said pop increases 49% from 1998. Math is hard, I said.
Mhm.
And I literally posted the math. I posted my work. 2 million is greater than over 1 million. Also, who the fuck is you? Laugh out loud. And what did we lose? And he never
And
answered that either.
and I'm trying to think, like, so even if it sold 1 million, let's say it sold 1 million units right
Okay.
now, with since it came out, it's been out for what, 2 weeks? Has it been 2 weeks yet? I don't know. It has not been that long since this game
No,
came
it
out.
hasn't. It's been
When
a
the
month
original
tops.
game came out in 1988 on the Famicom, on the NES, how many RPGs were there? Like 6? You know what you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
there is so much more competition just in the genre
Which
space
is another one of
today.
those pesky macroeconomic conditions that,
It makes it hard to do a direct comparison for
yes,
sure. But like, the idea is just basically, for the folks that are having a hard time understanding it, like, it's just like there are so many more options now for people
100%.
that like this kind of game. For a game to still sell that many, especially a game that is unapologetically old school, you know what I mean? It's a hard game. It is a classic game in terms of its
Oh
gameplay,
boy.
its story. That's for it to sell as well as it has. Even if that's where it peaks, even if it doesn't go any higher than 2 million or whatever, like, that's still remarkable. I don't know how, like, it's strange to me to be up in arms about how well it's doing. Like, and also, doesn't it benefit all of us when a game like that does well? Like, isn't that to the benefit of the
If
entire
if
community
you
of people
play
that like those
games,
games?
and if you play video games and like video games, it does.
Right.
And
I guess if you're just seeing video games as another piece of ammunition in some sort of goofy culture war that you feel like you need to
oh, I'm
fight,
so
like,
tired of the culture
maybe
conf. So tired of culture
I
conf.
I've retired fully from all of that. Like, I just don't have any interest in fighting about it's so silly.
Well, and
It's
that's the
so
thing. I'm
stupid.
not even trying to get into that. I'm trying to show trying to show this window licker that, hey, here's what the sales are. Okay.
You're showing numbers. You're just showing
Yes.
numbers. They're
Here's the
they're
sales.
unemotional. They're unemotional. They are just what they
Here's
are,
what Square said. They can't lie to their shareholders. It's a public statement, homie. That can be
Mhm.
construed as lying to shareholders if it's not true. It's a public
Right.
statement by a corporation. What are you fucking talking about? And so at this point, this devolves into two different paths. And so he says, do I need to show you the definitions of units and copies again? Because you're going to find out real soon they're not the same. Okay. Yeah, not only does your math suck, but your definitions suck too.
I want to know what his definition of unit is and how it differs from copy.
I said we're talking about financial success and failure. If you want to talk impact, that's a different discussion. That you also lose, by the way, because this is a remake of one of the most impactful games of all time. He says, dude, it flopped compared to when it released. It probably didn't even make it back the amount. It probably didn't even make back the amount it needed to be considered a success. So, as usual, they sugarcoated it to make it look more successful than it was. They've been doing it for over a decade. People aren't fooled. And I said, probably is a weasel word when you have no data. I just showed you the data. It's already done 2/3 of its opening period as the OG run did altogether. It's going to be fine. And then you can pretend this combo never happened and move on to your next outrage. He says, look, soy boy, we can go back, we can go at this back and forth all you want. The effect is still going to remain the same. The current game flopped and units are not copies, no matter how hard you try. That ain't gonna change. I said, now we are breaking out the cliches, aren't we? Your mind is beautiful, fiendishly stupid, like staring into the vacant, black beaded eyes of a chicken and encountering a stupidity so ancient, so profound that it staggers the mind to grapple with. Truly reptilian. Like, now I'm getting mean because I just can't get through to this dumb motherfucker. Like, at this point, like, starting to get mean. And so, at that point, I guess what I'm trying to do is to say, like, what do we do about this? Like, what do we do about the fact that, like, we now, I think we failed to kick these people out, and because I'm not a gatekeeper, and now we're
Right.
fucking stuck here with these people.
Yeah. Trapped in the asylum, as it were.
Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know what to do about that. Like, it's that boggles the mind. Like, in terms of all of how that even happened. Like, I
Yeah.
still don't know how it devolved into that. I know that we're going to be having this guy I was particularly talking about is a fan of the guy we're going to be debating. And so then the other branch of this, he says, no idea who you are. All I know is you suck at what you're trying to prove. If anything, you're only proving me right. Over 1 million copies for a video game that costed that is not good. This isn't a comic book or manga. They cost more to make. I said, buddy, that's the OG run of Dragon Quest in 1998. How fucking stupid are you? Over 1 million in 1988 is fearsome, but keep dunking on your own point. He says, just keep looking stupid, soy boy. I've said my piece. You lost. Get over it. So that's a fun preamble to what we're going to be doing on Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we're going to be having a barn burner of a debate. It's going to be me and OJ. And I think this guy Renowned, who is the senpai of the fan I was arguing with, and I think Hypnotic might be showing up too, which is kind of a big, like, anti whatever streamer, like anti-game streamer, I guess. Like, these people are anti-game. I don't know how else to put it.
Well, they are. Like, I've had videos where I've talked about just the notion that you're shooting yourself in the foot if you're like, I'm not going to play Dragon Quest 3 HD because they let me, or they make me choose type A or type B instead of male.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Like these are things that you are not going to care about. I know that they seem really important and big to you right now in the spaces that you exist online. Like, these are the issues that are the most important, and they're destroying the nation or whatever. 10 years from now, you're not going to care about any of that stuff. You're going to have moved on, even if you're still part of that same movement, for lack of a better term. You're going to have moved on to other things. You're not going to care about that stuff anymore. So you're going to deprive yourself of cool experiences now because all of the drones within the movement are saying this is bad. So we're not going to, so we collectively are not going to partake in this thing because it's bad, because we disagree with the stupidest thing. Like, I come at it from a perspective where I think the type A and type B thing is silly. Like, I think it's a little silly personally. Like, I think
Sure.
it's fine to have a gender that you pick for a character that does not speak, has no personality, has nothing, is just an empty shell of a character in a
Oh,
game. Like, I think it's fine. I don't. It doesn't matter to me, at least. Like, maybe it matters to some people, and that's fine. Not, degrading or demeaning their experiences, but like, it doesn't bother me. I think it's a little bit silly to make that change, that people weren't asking for. I think it's a little strange, a little silly to change the character design of a female barbarian or warrior, whatever she was, um, because she was wearing a bikini. We've had bikini clad. It's goofy. It's always been goofy, but we've had
sure.
bikini clad barbarian women in fantasy for decades,
Right, but
right?
you could
And
but you
like,
could also say the other way too. Like, you're really gonna get this bent out of shape for a few
but you're gonna get that upset about it?
over a few
Yeah, you're gonna get
centimeters of
that.
fucking fabric added to a character?
You're
What
gonna
the
that's
fuck?
that's so important to you that that's why you're boycotting a video game that, it by all other measures, you would probably love.
They're not
There's
they're
some
not
sort of,
boycotting shit, Brandon. They were never gonna buy it anyway.
well, either that or they are buying it and they're just purely performative
Like
online. That wouldn't surprise me either.
like
It's just it's a silly thing to, whether you agree with the changes or disagree with the changes, or more like me, where you are like, I think it's a little silly, but whatever, I don't care.
sure.
um Regardless, like, why I don't know, why pigeonhole yourself, why deprive yourself of an experience you would like for some culture war that, like I said, you are not going to care about 10 years from now. If
I
you are blessed to still be taking breath 10 years from today, you are not going to care
I
about
I just
that
don't I
time.
just don't even know if they're gamers, man. Like
I mean, it could just be that they're coming in and seeing an issue to rally support for their cause, whatever
I
the
wonder
cause
about
is. And
that because the thing is, like OJ literally was asking for achievements on one game. I forget because the same guy was upset about something. Would not produce the
Mhm.
achievements. It's like, yeah, whatever. I got you dead to rights, man. Like whatever. And but the point is, like on this, like do you remember that episode of Family Guy where Peter runs for school board against Lois because Mr. Farkas got fired?
It rings a distant
Okay,
bell.
so Mr. Farkas is this crazy teacher that was Peter's crazy teacher, right? And he notices that Mr. Farkas, because he was throwing condor eggs out the window for a science experiment on gravity, he got fired. And so he decided, I'm going to run for school board, even though Lois is already running for school board. I'm going to run for school board to get Mr. Farkas's job back. And he wins. He ends up winning. And so Lois is very angry because that was her thing. She was going to run for school board. And Peter just literally fucking sandbagged her. And so Lois is like, I can't believe that you're depriving me of an opportunity to do great things for our kids because just to get that crazy teacher his job back. Now, keep in mind, this is the entire reason that Peter sandbagged Lois on this campaign. Peter looks her dead in her shit and he goes, who? That's how I feel about these people. Like, whether they really care or not, like, they're obviously really, really angry right now. But if you come in 3 or 4 weeks, they won't even fucking remember that we had this discussion. They'll be on to the
Right.
next video game outrage. There'll be another
Mhm.
game where um there's a there's a um there's a pink-haired, blue-haired developer on the staff, and so that game's going to be bad because that
Right.
developer had blue hair. Or here's another game where there's a ma'am that shouldn't be there, and oh, that's a race swap, so that's a bad game. Um,
And it's so funny because if you go back 10 years to Gamergate, their whole initial argument was that these people, these liberals or whatever, were coming into the gaming space and they weren't even gamers, and they were wanting to change things to suit their agendas. And now we've got these grifters on the other side coming in and making a huge deal out of this stuff that anybody who's playing games
I,
does
I
not
I
care
literally
about.
they hate it. They hate it when I call them that. I called them reverse gamer game. I called them that, and the reason for that, not that I was necessarily a huge proponent of Gamergate, but
Mhm.
I understand why it happened. Those left-leaning people back in Gamergate were fucking annoying. They were fucking annoying. And they were shrill, and nobody liked them. But here you guys are now. Like the
doing
Grums
the
and
very thing that doing the very
yes,
thing that you.
you're the annoying shrill guy now. It's you.
Mhm.
You're the one that everybody mutes every time you fucking come across the feed. They mute. Like it's
Mhm.
you now. And so that's what I'm saying. Like this shit is cyclical. Not to mention like the whole genesis of like the Gamergate. A lot of people don't know this. So the whole thing, and by the way, like with anything, there's a kernel of truth to it. The whole thing was it was ethics and games journalism, right?
That
It,
was the veneer.
that
Yeah.
was the okay, but here's the thing. That's always been a problem. It's still a problem. But the whole avant-garde of the movement, the raison d'etre of that movement it was a lady named Zoe Quinn, right?
Zoe Quinn, right?
Okay.
It was prefaced on the. I just actually listened to a podcast that covered
Okay.
this today. Actually, it's funny um, that this is coming up, but uh, it's interesting because her former boyfriend accused her of sleeping with a particular games journalist
Yeah, it's the
for a
Five Guys.
positive
It's the
review
Five Guys burgers and fries, right?
for her depression quest or whatever to get a good review. Um, it became clear and came out that the person this guy was accusing her of having slept with for a good review never reviewed the game. So from the beginning, the argument was made up. It was ginned
Well,
up
well, my
to
understanding
create
is,
an outrage.
well, it's beyond that though. He didn't sleep with her. He didn't review the game. And Branden, the game was free.
Right.
It was free. So slept with game reviewer to get publicity to sell her game was the narrative.
Right.
He didn't sleep with her. The game was free. He didn't review the game.
Mm-hmm.
The game got like a mention of like, oh, here's one of 20 indie games this one page article is spotlighting.
Yeah, I looked up the
It's like one
the
page.
smoking
It's
gun.
like,
It's
here's a
one mention of the game in among a bunch of other games. Yeah,
Depression
yeah.
Quest is a game.
Right. Right.
Like,
Glowing praise. Yeah, I mean, so my issue, beyond the harassment, which I mean, the harassment obviously that's bad, no matter
well,
what, no matter what
that's
your
when I
point of
ducked.
view
That's
is.
when I ducked out. I was like, oh, okay, well,
The
yeah.
harassment is bad. The idea of like being ethical and being disclosing relationships or disclosing when someone receives something for free or receives a gift or whatever, that's important, and that
Always been a big
should
deal. Yeah.
that it's always been a thing. It was not a new concept, and it was not something that quote unquote liberals were bringing into the gaming space. It's always been here. It's always been a thing. So I don't know, like it
Where the
was
fuck? Where
ginned up.
the fuck were all these guys when Giant Bomb? God, what's his name? Oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. Give me 1 second. Giant Bomb founder.
Adam. Oh,
Jeff Gershman. Where the fuck were
yeah,
you when Jeff Gershman was getting fucking fired for refusing to write a glowing game review of Kane and Lynch? Where the fuck was
right,
it? Where the fuck were these guys, right? So
right,
that's
right.
the thing. Like this has always been there. This problem of corruption in games journalism has always been there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's necessarily based on my review of that whole thing. I don't think that's necessarily what any of that was about. I'll just leave it at that.
No, it definitely wasn't. It was an excuse to harass. If you want to, here's the thing, just a general rule of thumb for bringing about systemic change. If you want to bring about systemic change within a system, you don't do it by committing crimes and harassing people. Like that's not you're gonna find a lot more resistance than if you go about it the smart
Right,
way.
because
Um,
people that aren't on the periphery are going to be like, okay, these people are fucking nuts.
yeah, it doesn't help. It does not
It
help.
that's what like, and that's basically that's where so that stuff's always been important, and I think and trust me, like Brandon, you and I have gone back and forth on this. Nobody is harder on games journalists than I am. Nobody,
Hmm.
but there's a way to go about it. And it also helps when you're actually targeting the people that make those executive decisions. So like you're
Right.
yelling at like staff writers and like Stephen
Right.
Totillo's just over here whistling. Like Stephen
Hmm.
Totillo is the editor in chief. Wouldn't Stephen Totillo be the fucking problem that you should be yelling at if you're going to yell at Kotaku? He's the one that makes the
If you
executive
really,
decisions.
yeah, if you really want to bring systemic change, if your goal either in the old Gamergate arguments or in this current woke DEI whatever nonsense is being spewed, if your goal is really to bring change that you see as positive, you're targeting the wrong things. You're going about it the wrong way. Like it's not having the effect you think it's having.
It's like, what the fuck is going on here? I just saw like one. I was just scanning my YouTube feed, and like, Emily's got, and she just made it in. Orbology just made it in the house. Just made it off. Got off work. What's going on, Emily? What's up?
Oh, hey, Emily.
Actually, you're here perfect timing because we're going to be talking about, speaking of podcasting and things of that. You're perfect timing here. But like I'm going through my YouTube feed and I see Emily's got a new video out, and it's like, oh, cool, definitely gonna check that out. But then here, 3 or 4 videos down the line, here is a picture of somebody with some blue hair and some problem glasses, and it's like, this game's gonna fail. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, how is this helping
Yeah.
anything, man?
And here's the thing about the video game space right now in
It's so
2024,
reactionary, and it always
2024.
has been. Whether
It's so
whether it's crazy left people or crazy right,
the
it's
space
so
is so, my
reactionary.
point is that the space is so big. If you see a game and it's being made by somebody that you think is awful, you disagree with that person's politics or lifestyle or beliefs or
They've
whatever,
got big glasses. I can't play that game.
play a different game, man. Like
What the-
there's so many games that like you don't have to play
it's
all of them,
huge.
and you're not gonna. Even if you wanted to, you can't. You just can't. Your meat body cannot handle.
No, I'm choking on the fucking Switch. I got one fucking system under my belt right now. I'm choking on that.
Right.
I can't. Jeez.
It's I know that a lot of it is grifters or people that are profiting
Oh, don't call them
off of.
grifters. Don't do
Oh,
that.
I know they get really upset about that.
OJ's finding that out the hard way. Don't call them grifters. Oh, they'll come after you. Call them grifters.
Well, that would be fun.
Oh, it's gonna be
But yeah,
great. Yeah, next Wednesday, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fucking biblical, man.
they're out there making money on Twitter and on YouTube.
And there's the
By
heart of it.
posting
Yeah.
incendiary things, and then they drum up all of these people that don't actually have a stake in things. They don't stand to gain financially. They're probably shooting themselves in the foot because they're depriving themselves, like I said earlier, of an experience in a game that they would probably enjoy. These people that are JRPG players that are like, I'm not going to play Dragon Quest 3 because of woke DEI.
Yeah, I don't.
Like,
Her crotch isn't showing. Not playing that. No crotch,
right,
no play.
you probably would have enjoyed that game, but you've made a choice to follow the grifters and be mad about this thing that is like not important, man. Just
It's not.
important. Like,
And at the end of the day, that's
it's
exactly right. It's not.
yeah.
Like how many experiences can you possibly deprive yourself of because one of the developers has problem glasses? I don't understand it. I just don't. You are trapped. You are fucking trapped. You are forever time warped in 2014. Don't drag me. If you want to be an ever loving freak and you want to just be a dumb window licker who's stuck in 2014 permanently, if you want to be a 0 seasons of Rick and Morty guy who just is an absolute remedial genius, a beautiful beady-eyed chicken brain dude, like, you can do that. But don't drag me into your world. Please don't do that.
Right.
Don't. But I'll tell you, I wish I was a grifter. I do.
Oh man,
I could,
there's money to
Brandon.
be made,
I could make so much goddamn money on this platform. Like I can do it. Because I know something they don't know about themselves. They're trapped in 2014. So here's my thumbnail, and it's big red, and here's the big bug eyes that I'm going to put on top of big red, and then red font on the thumbnail saying what. And I could absolutely, I could grift with the best of them. I could grift with the best of them. But
Yeah, it's very easy to imitate the style of these folks because they're all basically the same.
like,
Um,
oh man,
yeah,
like yeah, just get the bug eyes and like have some
it's
steam
a
coming
weird
out her
time,
ears. And,
man. What a stupid time to be alive. You know what I'm saying?
well, and again, that might be recency bias too, because I've thought the same thing. Like as I read you that Twitter exchange, I'm like,
Hmm.
God damn it, people just gotten fucking stupider.
Yeah,
And I don't
the
think they
brain
have.
worms.
I think we're as dumb as we've always been and as smart as we've always been. But I think that social media has given us a platform to air that dumbness and that intellect.
Hmm.
I don't think it's good
There's a
for us.
certain there's a
Yeah,
certain entitlement that people feel to having their voice heard or inserting themselves into discussions or debates that do not really involve them, do not impact them in any way. Like even, like there's arguments that you can make on the other side of it too, where it's like, well, there are people that don't have a voice that should have a voice, and people that have way too much of a voice that maybe could
sure.
could stand to have a
Well,
little bit less. And that's all fair. But it's just like, yeah, everybody has a platform now, and everybody's shouting at the top of their lungs from their
Carl
platform, and it's
Sagan,
just
one of my favorite science popularizers of all time. Great writer too. Carl Sagan, I think, was ahead of the game. He said that in the future, everyone would be a celebrity. He said in the future, we'll all be celebrities, and everyone will get at least their 15 minutes of fame. He said that,
right.
and that was before social media was even thought of. That guy was so ahead of the curve on that shit.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
here we are. And again, he wasn't certain it was good for us, and neither am I. It's part of why I'm going to start to scale back after this year, man. I
Hmm.
don't necessarily think this is good for us. Ponder that for a bit, but yeah, I one when I'm talking about games, I'm not playing games, right? And when you got
True.
500 fucking backlogs worth of games, number two, I don't want to just pigeonhole myself to video games. There's so much cool shit that I'm seeing, or let's say I'm traveling, or I just read Kill 6 Billion Demons. Fuck, that's a video on its own. Um, Faith, which is a video game, that's a fucking video on its own. And the impact of like these horror experiences in terms of, I think video games are actually the perfect horror format. I don't think it can be
Mhm.
topped. It's that or the haunted house, but I don't think video games can be topped as a medium. Riverdale is move over Super Eye Patch Wolf. Riverdale is an entire series of goddamn videos.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know. There's games that I still want to review on the Switch. There's games I want to review,
Sure.
but honestly, at the point the project has become so bloated and so passionless that if you're not talking about something that you're absolutely passionate about, what are you doing, man?
Well, and that's the key, right? Like, feeling like you have to produce content. You have to have a regular influx of content, and it doesn't matter if you enjoy it or care about it. You need to do it. That is completely separate from the idea
Uh
of,
huh.
hey, I love this thing, this experience
Uh
that
huh.
I had with this game. I want to talk about it. I want to share it. I want to get people excited about it. Like that is one of those things has a soul, one of them does not. You know what I mean?
We're gonna talk about
So,
and we're gonna talk about that in my channel trailer for my new channel. I'm gonna talk about that. The thumbnail literally says there was a thumbnail here. It's gone now, and it's a reference to Silent Hill. And we are gonna talk about algorithmic horror. That's gonna be my channel trailer. We're gonna
oh,
talk.
nice.
We're
Okay.
gonna talk about algorithmic horror. That's what I'm gonna talk about. And in doing
Mhm.
so, I'm also gonna outline the new mission of the new channel. Now, people are gonna ask me, okay, Zoo, where is this new channel at? Well, I'm not going to tell you. This is a fresh start. If you find it, and I hope you do, I hope I see you on the other side. But this ghost is vanishing for sure. There's already some people who have found me because I'm fucking bad at this. So I will tell you, there are at least 3 people that have already found me. They've already found the new channel. And I couldn't fucking believe it. I'm like, wow, like I've got to do a better job of hiding. But it's gonna be fun, and I do think a lot of you will end up finding it. And I'm still going to do some flipping the switch stuff. Still gonna. I've got some reviews that are already written. Might as well do them. If I come across a Switch game I can't shut the fuck up about, I'll absolutely do it. And you couldn't stop me from streaming Morrowind. And I'm sure I'll still occasionally also do a Liquored Up Live or 3 every now and then when the mood strikes me and we just get a good guest or we got a good topic. I'm sure I'll pop back in for that. But other than that, I am extraordinarily excited with the new project. It's hard not to be.
Yeah,
It's
that's exciting.
chance for a new start. Yeah. All right. Let's see where we're at with comments, and we'll get on to the next business here. Let's see here. Hey, I may as well ask this again, Brandon. Do you think we'll get a new Chrono Trigger remake within the next 5 years? I feel like we're closer and closer.
Yeah, if we're gonna get it, I think it probably needs to be within the next 5 years. Um, I get the I don't know why else they would have bothered with a Chrono Cross remaster when they did, if not to sort of test the waters, get a sense for if there was a market for the series. Um, and currently there are still people at Square Enix who worked on the original Chrono Trigger. Um, so they're going to want, I think at the insistence of fans, would want people who were involved in the original game to be involved in some sort of oversight of any kind of remake or extension of the Chrono games. Um, so yeah, I think that it's I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Maybe we see an announcement tomorrow night. That's what I always hope going into any sort of trailer, showcase that we're going to see that Chrono Trigger something, anything. It's the next 5 years. It's got to happen. It's got to happen.
I don't know about Trigger, but I do think we'll probably see Final Fantasy Tactics that Jason Schreier has even confirmed. I think we'll at least probably see that at the Game Awards. I think that might be one of the things that shocks people.
Yeah, if they're doing a remaster or remake, do we know if it's supposed to be a remaster or a full on remake? I heard remaster.
This is I forget. I'd have to go back and look, but Schreier basically confirmed it. He said it's done. It's done. They're waiting on the right time. They've been sitting on it.
Okay.
So I'm very excited for that. I never got to play Final Fantasy Tactics. I will drop everything I'm doing and play Final Fantasy Tactics. I've been told by too many people not to do that, so I've got to. Rowan, welcome in, buddy. Rowan998 says, "How dare those leftists?" Yeah, I guess? Question mark. Breaking down macroeconomics, something that leftists are well known for. I guess? Question mark. Leftist, i.e., people I disagree with. That's what that was.
Right.
The Monster says, "Happy Dragon Quest 3 doing well. It's super chill." It's not, Monster. It's not doing well. It's not doing well, soy boy. It's not doing well. You lost. Get over it. You lost, Monster. But yeah, that's exactly what's happening. Yeah, me too, Monster. I'm glad it's doing well. 2 million is absolutely great. That's smashing. For a game that will beat the brakes off you like that game will, like Brandon said, that game's fucking hard. I'll never forget beating zone. I'll never forget beating Final Boss way back in the day on and literally doing it. I didn't even know about the orb thing that could make that fight easier and cut his health in half and give him some weaknesses. And I just had to beat that 8,000 HP boss. And 8,000 HP in Dragon Quest 3 is insane. Yeah. And I'll never forget finally beating that fight without using that light orb and being like, oh my God. That was amazing. That's like one of the toughest boss fights I've ever had in my life. So good.
Yeah, it's a heck of a challenging game for sure.
Monster says, Brandon, sorry, I'm tired, LOL. Hey, it is late, right? Brick says, then
Look,
I went to
when you've had a name that's so common but spelled slightly differently, I get so used to it that I don't even notice it anymore until
Brandon.
yeah, I don't even notice it.
Then I went to funeral yesterday and came back home with mom, aunt, another uncle, and his girlfriend and a cousin. My aunt just had to want to go home when the rest wanted to stay and visit more with. Yeah, no, for sure. And I am sure sorry for your loss. I hate that. There's nothing worse than that. So like I said, hopefully you got some good visiting, got to kind of swap stories, got to hear a little bit more about him from people who knew him longer, etc. Um, it's kind of a good moment to kind of strengthen those familial bonds at times. Monster says, yeah, Dragon Quest 3 caused schools to close, LOL. What the fuck does this have to do with politics? That's what me and OJ were trying to scratch our heads on. Like we're getting called like all these signifier words, like leftist and soy boy, and like you lost. I don't work for Square. What the fuck did I lose? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
I got to play a fun game. I guess
I
if
got to
that's
play a
losing,
fun game. I
then
guess
great.
I guess a loser is me. Like, yeah, a moron grows in Twitter. Although I think we're growing a fucking garden at this point.
Mm.
Let's see, Rush Dog, Comrade Zoo spreading communist propaganda. Yeah, if it's anything I've ever been accused of, being in executive level business, it's being a fucking communist. Like, yeah, 100%. That's real. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, congratulations. You're not the dumbest fucking person in the history of anything, are you? Let's see here. It's Rush Dog says sorry for your loss, Brooke, and I echo that sentiment as well, Brooke. And then Monster also sorry as well. Brooke says family she had to control the trip. He was a veteran from the Nam era, so they did the flag folding, the gun shooting, and played the tabs.
Mm.
Oh, that's always so. When my great grandfather buried, when they played taps, like it's one of the few times where there were
Yeah.
no onions present, and I cried. Like I bawled, man.
My grandpa passed away and he was in the military and they did the flag ceremony and the guns and all that. That was my first time experiencing that this year too.
Then back to Emily. She says, made it, just got off work. And again, welcome in. Rush Dog saying, hey, Emily. He said, Emily, she's saying, hey, Rush. Monster saying, what's up? Monster says, LOL, Zoo. I wish I saw this thread you're talking about. Oop, baby, LOL. So I scribbled the moron's name out. But I do have a post. So if you go to my Twitter, you'll see a screen cap of me being really, really mean to the idiot. But yeah, I saved my meanest moment. I think it was it was either the chicken comment
The
or
chicken eyes thing, that one, I felt like residual splash damage from that. That was
oh,
like
that's me. Yeah, like when I start looking at you and saying woof woof, I hear dogs barking or compare. Yeah, that's I'm getting into my like internet blood sports days with that shit. But yeah, that one was the chicken comment was nasty. That was nasty even for me. Like that was yeah, that was good stuff. I feel like
it was good. It was good.
that's peak Zoo. Worth reading again real quick. Yeah, now we're breaking out the cliches. Your mind is beautiful, fiendishly stupid, like staring into the vacant, black beaded eyes of a chicken and encountering a stupidity so ancient, so profound that it staggers the mind to grapple with. Truly reptilian. Like,
Oh, I want that on a shirt or something. It's great.
uh, like, oh, goodness gracious. And then Orbology playing nice, saying hi back. Also, Zoo, you can't reason with idiots no matter how logical your argument may be. Yeah, I know. It's like, but here's the thing, Emily, and you're right. You're 100% right. So, intellectual Zoo understands this, but there's another side to me that was before I started the Flipping the Switch project that was a blood sports guy. Like, so that's like your Keemstar types, etc. Yeah, baby. And I love the mud. That Zoo, fucking loves rolling around in the mud and the stink, and I can do it with the best of them. And they're going to find out. They're going to find that out the hard way this coming Wednesday, next Wednesday. They're going to find that out the hard way. We're gonna blood sports this up, and it's not going to be like the Prime discussion where I was kind of moderating that shit show. It's going to be I'm gonna be rolling right in the mud too. It'll be I want to do at least one of those. I tried to get the moron. I tried to get the remedial that was fucking with the Super Retro Force Bros. I tried to get that bald Uncle Fester looking motherfucker on that discount mini me, that discount Vern Troyal.
Was that the one with the video where the guy was like walking around?
Pull up
and
50 fucking deep. Yeah, that fucking
Yeah,
guy. Yeah,
him.
looks
I
like a
remember that, yeah.
Nosferatu looking discount Vern Troyer motherfucker. Like, yeah, that guy that's walking around like dodging cars and fucking trash being hucked out of windows at him while he like fucking like talks and shows off his fucking hairy chest. Oh! Like, shows all that fucking shit off to the chat. That idiot. I tried to get that idiot on several times, but he would never come on. He would just he did one video on me called Monganzu is or Montezuma. He called me Montezuma. He said Montezuma is Belmont's pit bull was the name of the video. I still cherish that. And I basically responded with a video. I never released it, but I had a video like all teed up where I found a step ladder on Amazon.com. I'm just like, check this out, buddy. $49.99 is a great fucking deal for that. And then you can actually get on that. You can get on that scale. That way, when you say you're going to pull up on me and we see eye to eye, you can actually get up on that stool and you can actually look me in the eye like a real man. You won't be staring at my groin the whole fucking time. Like I'm gonna have to be ducking under tables because fucking this guy is gonna be showing up with a couple of jugglers and a couple of clowns looking to do some shit.
What an honor to have him make a video about you.
Yeah, he made one video. Yeah, it was, and I said, hey, you can always come on and discuss this. You can always pull up like you're always telling people. Why don't you pull up into a Liquored Up Live? 50 fucking deep, bro. But he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it because he's a pussy. So that's okay. That's okay. We can do this so we can have fun with someone else. So I want at least one Blood Sports reappearance before I exit stage left, and I think I'm going to get it Wednesday. Let's see. I feel like Art Piazza would be perfect for a potential Chrono Trigger remake, but who knows? You got to be very careful with a Chrono remake. I feel like, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you got to be very careful.
I think you do. I do think that Square Enix is being too careful. I think they
for sure.
Have let the lore of Chrono Trigger kind of rule when it shouldn't. Like, I love Chrono Trigger. I still count it as my favorite game of all time.
You're number one. Okay.
My number one.
Damn. It's a good one.
But let's go ahead and do something with it. It's okay. It's fine. If they do a remake and it's not good, okay, that's all right. You tried. Right. And now but we still have the original game. We still have Chrono Trigger, still exists. Let's do a sequel. Let's do another game in the Chrono series. Let's actually make it a series like the original plan was. The original plan was for this to be a series. It was not supposed to be a one-off and then a sequel 5 years later and then nothing for 20 years. It was supposed to be a series. Sakaguchi confirmed that himself. And the only reason I think that they're not doing that is they're afraid of the legacy and the lore that is built up around this Dream Team perfection. It's not a perfect game, guys.
No, it's not.
Like, I love it. It's not a perfect game. And it doesn't need to be a perfect game. Any remake of Chrono Trigger doesn't need to be a perfect game. A sequel to Chrono Trigger doesn't need to be a perfect game.
And Chrono Cross wasn't a perfect game, but it still produced one of my favorite soundtracks of all fucking time.
There's so much to love about Chrono Cross. It's not one of my favorites, but I have a great deal of love and respect for Chrono Cross. And there's no reason that we can't have a third Chrono game. I know that the third Chrono game got turned into Final Fantasy Dimensions 2. I know that, but like a real, like, actual Chrono game, third one. There's no reason we can't have that and have that be an imperfect experience that is still enjoyable. Flesh out the world. Like, they did so many interesting things across those two games, three if you count Radical Dreamers. Um,
Right.
the, there's a lot of opportunity. I they are too precious with it. They're too precious with it.
Yeah, and
There's
I
no
think
question.
that's a fair point. I feel like, yeah, like you want to tread carefully, but you can also tread too carefully as well. There's a balance there. If you're not releasing anything at all, then at that point it
Hmm.
just looks like a dodge. And keep in mind that like that game was a product of crunch that almost killed those OG developers. I'm not sure I would even want a replicate of that. Like to be
Mitsuda was
honest,
in the hospital. He was in the
hundred
hospital from it.
percent, man.
So
Like that was a brutal dev cycle. Um,
you
and
know,
again,
and it,
I'm
and
not
here's
some zealot that's anti-crunch. I think that when you're immersed in art, um, and you really believe in what you're working on, I think crunch has produced some great shit. And again, I have friends that are fucking oil rig workers, and they're working literally in life or death peril, working on fucking fracking rigs, fixing those and maintaining those, and they'll be working those 80, 90 hours a week. So a lot of times when these video game devs look at crunch, I'm sitting there honestly kind of almost fucking roll my eyes. And it's not that crunch is good, because it's not. I don't condone crunch, but at the same time, it's like, the fuck are you guys talking about? You're in an air conditioned office. I know motherfuckers that are out there working 100 hours and literally watch their buddy get smashed by a fucking fracking rig. Like, it's not
to
that
be fair to
bad.
the developers, the oil rig guys are not as likely to lose their jobs after they finish what they're currently working
That's a fair
on.
point too. Yeah, like literally, oh thanks. Hey, thanks for all the fucking hard work. See ya.
Thanks for the crunch. You're out of here.
Get the fuck out of. Like, yeah, it's
But no,
terrible.
but here's the thing: like, if there's worry about the quality of the work being put into a Chrono sequel or remake, you still have a good number of that dream team that
Sure.
was behind Chrono Trigger. I mean, we lost Toriyama this year, right?
God, it
That's a
still
big blow.
hurts. Still
But we
fucking
still have
hurts.
Sakaguchi. We still have Hori for a time. Although he's looking quite old. I don't know if you've seen recent interviews. Um, so we still have Hori. We
They're
still have
all getting so
Sakaguchi.
old.
They're all getting old. We have Uematsu still for his small contributions to Chrono Trigger. He got to be on the Dream Team. Um, we still have a good number of them with us, and they're still actively involved in video games. So why not do another game now while you've still got them? Bring Sakaguchi in. Obviously, he has a good working relationship with Square Enix. They just produced Fantasian for him. They're not
Right.
going to do that for somebody that they don't want to work with. Like that, it just makes sense if you're going to
It's a missed
do it
opportunity
now,
to not
do it
do it.
soon. Yeah, do it soon.
And you're right. They are running out of time to do it right. Like,
Hmm.
for sure. So, got Emily here. Um, you guys have recently put together a podcast. It's one I have
True.
been meaning to check out. It's just been time, and the timing of it is just imperfect because of all the fucking work crunch. But
Mhm.
I've checked a little bit of it out. What was it like getting that together, and what was the impetus behind you and Emily and the other fellow? What's the other fellow's name?
Abdallah, he was in the chat earlier. Ramen 998.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So we got the trio here.
we got the trio. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um,
What
yeah.
was the
So
impetus behind that? What brought that? What made you guys get together and say, you know what? Let's do a podcast, because they're fucking fun as hell.
it's great. So I used to do a podcast. It's been almost a year since I had done it. A comedy podcast with some friends,
Okay.
and we did about 50, 60 episodes of that, and
Damn.
eventually that kind of went by the wayside as life changes happened and whatnot.
Sure.
And I really missed that kind of regularly, like, checking in with friends, like, it for no other reason, just to be able to hang out with your friends. And I remember having conversations with those guys, my former podcast host friends, and just like having so much fun having those conversations and being like, man, it would be great to have a record of those conversations, like just to be able to go back and listen to them sometimes, like, because they were
Sure.
so fun and funny. And so I was like, let's do a podcast. Like, even if nobody listens to it, like, who cares? Let's just do it. It'd be fun. So yeah, so we did it for a few years, from 2020 through, I think this year was when we did our last episode. We may pick it up again at some point. But anyway, I really missed that, doing a podcast in general. That was what started the me thinking about a podcast. Um, and I knew, like, from the get go, I met Abdallah this past year. But I knew even before I had met Abdallah, I was like, if I'm gonna do a podcast with anybody, I feel like I'm most simpatico with Emily, as far as the stuff that we like, the stuff that we want to talk about. We we like a lot of the same things, but we don't have the exact same perspectives on those things. So it make for interesting conversations. So I knew, like, if we're gonna do this, like, I really want to make sure she's involved if possible. I didn't know if she would be interested in it, so I waited a long time to even broach the subject with her.
Okay.
And then I met, like I said, I met Abdallah this year. We started hanging out. Very similar kind of interests and background, and um, so yeah. Then from there, it just kind of dominoes fell pretty quick, and we decided, yeah, we're gonna do it. And I don't know, 4 months ago, we sat down, figured out logistics, and have been doing it weekly since. So I think we're coming up on our 20th episode in 2 weeks. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Okay.
At least I can
Yeah.
speak for myself. It's been a lot of fun.
So
Um,
you were kind of the impetus of it. You're the one that's like, you know what? I'd love to do that, and you just reached out and
I
got it.
I think we all wanted to do it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think that I brought it up first, but everybody was just like, yeah, we're all thinking the same thing.
Podcasting's an interesting thing, and I guess this is kind of like podcasting, what I sort of do here. Um, but like in terms of, I guess my impetus and like, first of all, like I don't know how to do editing. I can't edit for shit. I've only learned a little bit to do some of the earlier videos I did this year. So at the time when I started this whole shit, I'm just like, yeah, you know what? I was going through some withdrawals because a couple of the podcasts I listened to, it was cool. It was the Cool Takes podcast that was done.
Mhm.
That went away. It was like, oh shit, okay, well fuck, I can maybe do something like that because I enjoyed those talks, but I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to do those kind of calls and editing. So it's like, if I can figure out how to throw like a fucking Discord call up live, maybe we can do it that way. And it sort of evolved into its own thing because of the live format of this, it's kind of its own unique thing for some reason. It ended
Mhm.
up that you don't see a lot in the gaming space as much, which is
There's something
great.
really special about doing a live show. We've talked about
Yeah, that
on
was
the
my
JRPG
question. Yeah, I was
pursuit.
what. Yeah, my leading. Are you guys interested in ever doing like a live cast?
Hmm. Yeah, we've talked about eventually moving towards that, or whether that becomes what the show is, and then we put out the recording of that on Spotify and on YouTube or whatever, but stream it live, or whether we do special episodes or like subscriber content that's like live, things like that. We haven't fully locked that in yet, but we definitely have talked about the how it would be fun, if we had enough interest from people to do it like that, to do it live,
To do
like
it
what you're
live.
doing, or
Fuck
like
it.
Hit
We're doing it
Point,
live.
or do it like Hit Point, with Super Derek show, sort of in that format. So we'll see. We'll
Okay.
see. We're not quite there yet, but
How
we'll
do you
see.
guys come up with concepts? Is it kind of free flow, or do you guys plan the topics, or?
We do. So the one of the things that we wanted to do kind of from the beginning with it was, a lot of, I would say the vast majority of video game podcasts, or specifically JRPG podcasts, are sort of like the news of the moment, the news of the week, the month, whatever. And that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. I listen to those shows myself. That's
Sure.
fine. But we wanted to make show like episodes that were a little more evergreen, so that you can jump in and listen to or watch an episode at any point and still have it be something interesting if it's a topic that you're into. So we kind of take the same a lot of the same methodology that I think Emily and I both separately use on our YouTube channels, thinking about potential topics and kind of have a discussion with each other beforehand, and then plan out. We don't do I won't say we do a ton of planning. We don't sit down and outline an episode, but we usually come in with the idea of the broad topic that we want to discuss.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, like kind of a general outline is always kind of good. I even kind of do that sometimes myself, where I'll say, "Hey, is there anything you don't want to talk about? Is there anything specifically you want to talk about?" And then go from there. But
Mhm.
yeah, I feel like if you're going to do like the recorded podcast, an outline would probably assist in that.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. What's been your favorite? What's been your favorite topic so far that you guys have done?
Oh man, I'm afraid I'm going to succumb to recency bias
Sure,
because we
as do we
we
all.
just recorded a couple of episodes this past week. Um, we have the upcoming episode in a week about collector's editions that I really like a lot. Um, as a, like we'll sometimes do like JRPG game focused episodes like about mechanics or topics related to the games themselves, and sometimes we'll do topics that are a little more like related to the collecting side of the hobby.
Sure.
So this is one that falls more on the collecting side, obviously. Um, so yeah, I mean that's like I said, that's probably recency bias because I just edited that one not very recently. Um, but yeah, it's great. Like I said, there's like 18, 19 episodes up there right now, and they're all basically evergreen shows, so you can jump in and watch one, listen to one.
Where
You're
now?
not
Now for
missing
other
out
folks
by
here that might be new, where can you find that at? Is that on your
so
channel or is that it's got its
on
own channel?
it's its own channel, youtube.com/, what is it, at JRPG underscore pursuit.
You and the thing is, like, you're a content machine, and it's good content. Like, it's all good
Oh,
content.
thank you.
Now, I love it, but is there now that you've added this project, um, is there how do you balance that out now? Or is there are you finding it tough to as these projects accumulate to balance things out, or is it just like a natural addition? And are you feeling any burnout from all the content produced? Because sometimes, fuck, I don't even produce half the shit you produce as far as content goes. And my shit, I feel burnt out sometimes, but maybe that also has to do with my job, etc. I don't know, but like fuck, like how do you avoid burnout with doing what you do? You're a machine, man.
With this, I think that kind of maybe counterintuitively it fuels me a little bit, um both in my like solo channel and with the podcast,
Sure.
because I'm like, now I am talking at least once a week, if not more, with two friends that are like-minded and love the same things that I love, uh, which is energizing to me from the perspective of the guy who has always just played these games by himself and never had any friends that enjoyed those kinds of games.
Oh, that ain't no
So it
shit, man. We've all been that. We've all been that
right.
kid on the school playground that it's like you just want to, that's kind of Eye Patch Wolf's ethos too. So John talks about that, where like that's
Mhm.
his ethos, and it's what's inspired my new channel basically. And that is like he gave me a piece of advice that I don't necessarily think I was following. And the piece of advice he stated is if you're going the time to do a video, the only time to do a video. And again, I don't necessarily think I have to ascribe to that, but he's like, when I am talking about something and I can't shut the fuck up about something, and I see the life leave the eyes of my friends and family as I talk about this and bring this up for the fourth or fifth time, that's when it's time to do a video. That's what he
Right, right.
says.
Yeah, so it's not, so I don't feel like it's
Like
doing a
manic
podcast
passion.
on top of a doing a podcast on top of a regular YouTube, channel. It doesn't feel like a burden to me. It actually feels like the YouTube channel feeds the podcast feeds the YouTube channel. Like it's
Dual
I don't want
inspiration.
to jinx it,
That's
and
how you do it, man.
I don't want to jinx it and call it a perpetual motion machine, because I then I'm just asking to actually burn out. But yeah, so far it's been good. It's been good.
Beautiful to hear. Awesome. Well, yeah, looking forward to eventually getting some fucking time to catch up. For sure. Um,
Yeah, like I said, it's all episode. Like you just jump in. You don't have to worry about following any threads or being behind
well,
on the
20
news or
episodes in, you got to
whatever.
have some fucking deep lore by now.
Well, there's some deep lore.
Okay,
I'm not
all
gonna say
right.
there's not. There's an advantage to following along.
I mean, fuck, this fucking show has deep lore, and there's no structure to this shit at all. Like, Rush Dog's produced a fucking bingo card for this thing. So
Yeah.
I know that 3 people can come up with some deep lore, 100%. Let's see. Monster says, look at their track record. It's pretty damn legit. And that's Art Piazza. Remind me, what did Art Piazza do?
Trying to. Why am I blanking?
I'm
I
blanking
know
too.
they did.
I know the answer to this. Monster will probably put it in there for us.
They did.
He'll save our drunk brains.
They did Dragon Quest something. Oh, they did Super Mario RPG, the remake of Mario RPG.
Oh, that was fabulous.
Yeah.
That was fabulous. They did a great
yeah,
job.
they did.
With that.
They worked on a bunch of Dragon Quest games, a ton of Dragon Quest games.
Okay.
Including 11, which is great.
Dragon Quest 11 is, oh, you want to talk about a masterpiece. That's so good. By the way, that's the one Dragon Quest game. I got Final Fantasy VI vibes from Dragon Quest. And if you know, you know. Not going to spoil anything.
I think they may have, it may be that they just worked on the 2D mode that was part of the definitive edition where you could play the whole game like an old school.
That was so. And again, I played mainly in the new mode just because that game is gorgeous. But I did check out, like, the fact that you can play that literally in, like, the 8-bit glory is amazing.
It would be fun to go back and replay it, I think. As
so good.
As a 16-bit game.
100%, yeah. Monster says, to be fair, I wouldn't mind a new take in the franchise either. Nothing's perfect. Yeah, and again, yeah, nothing's perfect, but I'll say Chrono Trigger is about as close as you can get. It's really good. Brooke says, Brandon, are you talking about Abdullah Smash from YouTube? The one who opens Pokemon cards?
Oh, and then he says, totally different.
Yeah, totally different, Abdallah, but I guess no one has seen us, both of us in the room. So, we got a mystery. Oh, we got a mystery, Chet. Put on your thinking caps.
Maybe. But no, no, it's a different Abdallah.
We're going to have to play the Blues Clues remix while we figure this out. You got to find. That's the first clue. And then Emily with the googly eyes she did not expect that. Then Rowan998 says, Brandon likes the episode where we talk about trails or Harvestella. Yeah, getting Brandon to shut up about Harvestella is almost impossible, and I hope he never does, because Harvestella is also one of my favorites. Oh my God, it's so good. And also Trails is just, I think Trails is the most consistent JRPG franchise in history, literally.
Yeah.
I've never seen a game hit so good, so hard, so many times. Like, it's crazy. I'm finishing up Azure now. And
oh, are you? Okay.
Oh, that game goes places I never would have imagined it. I kind of viewed Trails from Zero as kind of Portugal. If you know anything about your history, Portugal was a neutral state during World War II. And a lot of how they navigated that is just fascinating history in and of itself. The City of Shadow, they called it, just because of all the spies and all of the diplomats and things trying to, because they controlled Wolfram. It's kind of the same thing. They had a certain resource that both powers needed, and so they were able to leverage that into neutrality. And so basically, I'm like, okay, somebody's up to date on their fucking history here. That's what this is. Trails from Zero is basically based on like World War II era Portugal. And I still think there's some of that, but I was not prepared for where that game goes. It goes so many more places. No spoilers, but yeah. Now, so if Trail stays this consistent and now Azure's good, and I hear nothing but good things about Daybreak, which will probably be the next one I jump into. Since we're going to get Daybreak complete too, it seems like. But then you've got Harvestella, and honestly, Harvestella is, people are going to think I'm nuts, but Brandon, you can vouch for me. Final Fantasy OG, Final Fantasy 1 vibes. In terms of just that bonkers fucking story. Like, it's so good, and the dungeons are so interesting and creative.
Yeah, the aesthetic presentation of the game from every angle, graphically, story, characters, music, obviously. it is, I don't know, man. It's just like it does something
It's art, man.
like chemical in my brain. It's just like it hits all the right buttons, and it's, yeah, it's an experience. I really, I am hopeful that the team that made it, even if it doesn't become a series, I don't think it needs to be a series. Not everything needs to be a series. Um,
No, but please get
but
more. Feed us.
I hope that they get to work together again, because they did something really special with presumably not a huge budget. Like, you can tell it's not a AAA game, but they spent the money they had the right way. Like, they spent it well. And it really shows. So
I feel like that may be one of the most literal underrated games of the entire generation. What do you think?
I would agree. What does it got on Metacritic? Like a 77 or
Yeah,
something?
I
Like,
think it's critically underrated. I think it's not talked about enough. Harvestella is a fucking joint in every piece of the work. It's a joint,
here's
and
the
you should
thing.
all smoke it.
It came out in the midst of an influx of farming sim games, because here's the thing. Several years before Harvestella came out, a little game called Stardew Valley came out, and it was a phenomenal hit. It, sold millions and millions of
Stardew Valley
copies,
scares me.
or units, as they're sometimes known. And every gaming CEO was like, "Hey, we need some of that. We need some of that money coming in here. Get on it." And so every company at the same time started rushing to produce a farming sim JRPG that would do the same thing for them as Stardew Valley did for Concerned Ape. Okay. So all of these games have a similar development cycle. They all are finished at around the same time. They all start coming out at around the same time. Harvestella is viewed as just one of that batch of games. And I think the fact, like, Harvestella seems to me like it was already a game that they had planned, that they were working on, and they kind of put some farming elements, like, I don't want to say shoehorn them in, but like kind of shoehorned in some farming,
It's
to
so
meet
addictive, and the characters are so fun.
requirement of the executives or whatever. But it's like, it's such a small part of the game. I don't like farming sims. I'm not a big fan of farming sims. It's such a small part of the game. It's just like, you know. But anyway, but my point is that it was kind of judged as that, prejudged as that. I prejudged it as that. You know what I mean?
Oh
I
God,
did
yeah,
not expect to
we
like
all
Harvestella.
reacted to that Nintendo Direct. There was like 90 fucking farming sims in that Direct, and we're just like,
Yeah,
oh, here's
in that
another
one
one.
direct, and I was like, eh, whatever. Okay, fine.
Right.
And then I saw Goshina did the music, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. I'm gonna buy it for that. I'm gonna get, and then I know at least I'll have some good music, even if I don't like the game. And then I was, obviously blown away by the game. But yeah, I do agree. It is probably the most underrated JRPG that I've experienced in the modern era.
It's so good. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a JRPG that actually people are gonna think I'm nuts for the SNES. Mystic Quest, actually.
Mm. I enjoyed Mystic Quest when I was a kid. I haven't played it since I was a kid,
For
but
what
I
it
enjoyed it.
was, yeah, I think I was really mad that we didn't get 5 at the time, so I didn't give it. But that game's actually got a pretty bonking soundtrack, honestly.
Oh, the
Soundtrack.
music. You
Oh,
can't
it's
say a
so
bad
good.
word about the music in that game. It's great. Yeah.
It's so good. Orbology says we got some inside jokes for sure. Yeah, I mean you would have to. You would have to. Um, Brooke Barnes says I got Dragon Quest 11. Really need to play it if I can ever get away from Dreamlight Valley. It's one of my backlog games. Yeah, Dreamlight. So for those that don't know, Brooke, her Dreamlight Valley is her Morrowind. It's the game that sucks all the time that could be going to the gigantic fucking backlog on my wall.
Mhm.
Like it's yeah. I'll make you a deal, Brooke. Tell me when you start playing Dragon Quest 11, and when you start playing Dragon Quest 11, I will halt Morrowind and get on an actual Switch game again. We'll make ourselves. We'll make ourselves better. We'll push ourselves. That I think the new channel is going to make me get me on Morrowind. I'm gonna do the Morrowind video, and I think maybe that can help me close the book on Morrowind at least for a couple of years. Because yeah, there's gonna be a Morrowind video. There's gonna be a Morrowind video. There's gonna be an Are You Afraid of the Dark video. There's gonna be a Goosebumps video. Um, there's certain things I'm just obsessively interested in right now, and that's kind of what I'm looking to do is just differentiate and kind of follow that obsession. Let's see, Jay from Cold Nights Gaming. Speaking of podcasting and the OG podcast guy. What's going on, Jay? Work lurk, he
Hey,
says. Jay, man, you gotta do more cold takes.
Yeah, I was. I want to say I was the first guest on Cold
Were
Takes.
you the first guest
I
on?
might,
We
I
gotta
might,
get some
maybe I'm
more
wrong, but
fucking cold takes out of Jay. We gotta make him do it.
I think I was the first guest. Maybe I was the second. Maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe I was the second guest.
It's
That
so
was early
good.
on though. It was
It's
early on.
so good. It's so fucking good. Like yeah, like we need to like find a way to coerce Jay into do it. Now that he's got 1,000 subscribers, like relaunch. You never know, man. Like, because yeah, Jay just I think he just hit 1,000 subs. So big congrats, my dude. Oh, that's awesome. I can't believe how good everybody's doing. It's nice to see. If you were to tell me that my drunk ass that barely spends any time on this fucking shit was gonna get 300, like that's crazy. Yeah, that's when I realized like, whoa, we're twice Dunbar's number. It's time to pull the plug, man. It's time to pull the plug. But where are you at, Brandon? Didn't you just cross a threshold too?
What am I? I'm at around 12. I think I'm
You're
around 12
12.
right
Okay,
now.
Jesus, man. Did you ever think you would get that far?
No,
I don't
no.
feel like anybody who does this feels like they're gonna make it that far.
For a long time when I started for months and months and months, I was 100, 200, hovering in the low, sub 500 for a long time. And I was that was surprising to me that that many hundreds of people would even pay any attention, let alone,
I
come
I'm
back and
shocked
watch
at I'm shocked at 300 here. Like I am shocked.
multiple, yeah, like to come back and watch multiple videos, like what? It's mind-boggling. If you really sit down, especially if you sit down and think about those people as actual people, and you look at like the view count on a video, say it's got 200 views, it's like 200 people were watching this video. Like that's
Yeah.
that's crazy. That's crazy. You don't speak to groups of people that large on with any sort of regularity in real life, right? Like that's a platform, and yeah, you compare yourself to like uh H Bomber guy, it's not going to seem like much, but like you don't have to compare yourself to H Bomber guy. Like
No,
that's
and
a
and
weird
you
that's a
you
weird
will
phenomenon.
and you will never be H Bomber guy. Nobody will. Yeah, that's
No,
what I tell myself.
no.
Like nobody will ever. No, that there are some people like, and again, there are certain like, and again, like there's an order of operations. So I always consider, like I always joke that like to me, like somebody like Super Eye Patch Wolf is like a final boss of content creation. Like if I can ever do a video half as good as that guy fucking produces, like incredible. Now, what John will tell you, because he's very humble as well, you don't have a green screen and you don't have the editing, the years of editing experience. Like you said, I've got like 100,000 hours of videos under my belt,
Hmm.
etc. There's certain things that come with that makes him as good as he can get at his best. But then you talk about somebody like H Bomber guy. H Bomber guy is like John's unobtainable. That's his unobtainable.
Hmm.
It's like somebody like H Bomber guy. H Bomber guy who can literally like show up and put like Harry can put a fucking video out and it changes the entire YouTube landscape, like he did with that plagiarism video.
Right.
Like that is like that is staggering levels of influence. Do you now? Again, even where you're at though, do you ever get fucking? Because I know like it gives John some anxiety. Do you like where he's at? Do you ever look at where you're at and you're like, this many people are listening to me? Like, does it ever trip you out?
Trips me out for sure. Um
Because I'm
But like I
definitely
said, it
feeling
was
the trippies lately. That's part of why I want to pull
like
the fucking
yeah,
plug.
like I said, it was tripping me out. It was tripping me out before too, like when it was just several hundred.
Yeah, no, it's all.
Um,
I'm already getting like the heebie-jeebies just looking at my count, and it's like, oh god, I'm above 300 now. Like, what the fuck?
right. And I like it doesn't when I say trip me out, it doesn't like it's not a negative feeling. Like I don't feel
Yeah, I wouldn't call
off
it
put by
negative.
it.
Just I can feel the gravity of it.
Yeah, it's like there's a platform and relatively small compared to like we said the H bomber guys of the world and even the eye patch wolves of the world. Um but something of a platform, and there's like responsibility that goes with that, right? Like
Oh, for sure.
responsibility to an audience, to I don't know, society seems a little too highfalutin, but like there is a certain expectation that might be self-imposed, could be partially imposed by an audience, but that's kind of the thing. Like if you have an audience, they're there because you're offering something to them,
Sure.
whether it's entertainment, information, whatever. If you are not offering them that thing, then they're not going to stick around. They're not going to be interested. So it's a transactional relationship when you're talking about that sort of thing.
Right.
Now
Of course.
obviously there are folks will develop parasocial relationships with people on YouTube or streamers or other like celebrities or whatever like that. It certainly happens, but for the most part, the vast majority of YouTube to audience, it's a transactional relationship, right?
Right.
They want entertainment, and they either pay for it or they pay for it through their consumption of ads that then YouTube pays me for, right? Like
Right.
so if you think of it that way, it's like, you know, I'll produce this video and X number of people will watch it and hopefully have a good experience watching it. And that might encourage them to come back and watch another video that I put out that they will hopefully then have another good experience with. And it goes from there. But if I stop doing that, if I stop caring about the content, and I start just like churning it out like some sort of a mill, um, I feel like you can tell as an audience member, and there are some content mills that inexplicably still manage to exist, if not thrive. You're
Well, at a
watching their
certain
videos
moment,
and
and
you're,
I some of the larger creators I talked to have said this. At a certain moment, like algorithmically, like you're a made guy.
right,
Like at a
right.
certain moment, at a
Um,
certain point, the algorithm will just deliver views to you. It's one of the things I'm going to discuss in that channel trailer. Is do you ever feel the breath of the algorithm? Do you ever feel the algorithm pulling on your strings? Is that something you
mm,
felt the call of?
oh, me?
Hmm.
Um, I have been more puzzled by the algorithm, to be honest. When I think that I understand it and I seek to try to account for that, I'm always wrong. I don't think I'm ever right. And
So
it's
you're
the
no
things that
algorithm whisperer.
I am not. Whatever it is that when I think that I'm going to do it, it almost I mean not there's some exceptions, but almost always does not work out. But when I make something and try not to care about the the potential viewership, that's when I can be pleasantly surprised by the reception of a video, right? If
Hmm.
I don't have lofty expectations for it, but it's something that I enjoy and am passionate about, then if it does numbers, then that's just a pleasant surprise, you know.
100%. I think there's a craft to it. Yeah, for sure. Um, Again, I don't think anybody really understands how it works. That's my general consensus of all the creators I've talked to, big and small, is nobody really understands how it works. I do think that how frustrating must it be? Again, I don't do this for a living. I'm not trying to make any money off this. I'm not trying to be super big. But for people that are trying to grow their channels, which is most people, how how frustrating is it that like the way I kind of view the algorithm is honestly adversarial. I understand it's necessary, but essentially what it is like, and that's what I'm going to explore. I'm not talking to my viewers, not really. I am, but it's not just me with my shit out there and viewers viewing my shit. There is a gigantic middleman in between me and those viewers, and in between those viewers and me, and it's called fucking YouTube, right? It's called YouTube, and I don't know. I guess there's I can feel a little bit of a frustration with a lot of content creators at that middleman, and how that middleman seems to not always work out in favor. And even with subscribers, like their subscribers are like, hey, yeah, you did a video, I didn't even get a notification, didn't get it, even though I've done the click the star or the bell or whatever the fuck you call it, and I've jumped through all the hoops to get your content. It still doesn't show me because it just chose not to
Right.
that day, or vice
Hmm.
versa. I feel like there's a lot of frustration in that. Do you think YouTube could do some things that would make it more transparent as to what they're doing? I know they've got a proprietary algorithm to protect, but it might help alleviate some of the confusion of some of the people that are genuinely trying to grow their channels. And I know a lot of large, like big time content creators have been calling for that. Do you think that would help, or would it do the opposite and send people into a algorithm chasing spiral and make content less authentic, thus hurting YouTube as a whole?
Well, I think YouTube could make some changes to be more transparent, but I don't think it would be in the financial interest of YouTube to do that. Like they have fine tuned the algorithm to the point where it, now, for example, it prioritizes watch time. That's the metric that matters the most. They want to keep you on the platform. They want to keep you sucked in, watching ads, being fed content in a way that is
Sure.
going to motivate you to stay. So like if you're making content like that, then you might do well in this environment on YouTube. There are ways to use the like you said, nobody understands. Google doesn't understand the algorithm. Like if you talk to the engineers at Google, I guarantee you some of them might have some understanding of parts of it. Nobody understands the whole of the thing.
No,
There are
that's what I'm saying.
people
We
that
we we have built a machine, and that kind of is the story of our time, Brandon. We
right.
have built a gigantic machine that nobody understands how it works. That machine is called Leviathan. There's a reason why Thomas
Hmm.
Hobbes called that book Leviathan, and its symbology is a gigantic king being made up of people moving the parts. So
Yeah.
it's
I
very interesting. These machines, they're not even alive, not really. It's a great dead thing, and the only way it moves is because we all move it. And boy, that's both a frightening and powerful thought, isn't it?
It is. And I think that there are people like content creators on the platform that have a better understanding of how to use the algorithm, how to work within it than others. Like I think Emily, as an example, is somebody who has a pretty solid understanding a lot of the time of what what works, right? Like so I know like if I'm curious, if I have a question about is this the right move, I can talk to her and she 9 times out of 10 will have the right advice. So
Sure.
there are people that it can intuit um the right move to make based on how the algorithm behaves. I am not that person. I I am wholeheartedly and assuredly not the person who understands it. Every instinct I have is just incorrect. So so for those times when I'm trying to uh, get in there and make it work for me, I might ask for help. But most of the time, I'm just making whatever it is that I feel like I want to make. Or if I'm reviewing a game, like I've just played this game, I'm going to talk about it. Like, that's how my content has been lately. It's been more like, what do I want to talk about? What what game is it that I have played that I want to tell people about? So I haven't really been farming the algorithm per se in several months, I would say.
Yeah, just throwing it out there and seeing what sticks. That's
Hmm.
that's kind of how I do it too. I'll tell you, it's gonna be really humbling to go back to zero again. That is going to be humbling. It's going to be really humbling to put a video out and get 2 views. That's going to be humbling again. I'm honestly kind of looking forward to it. Going to be interesting for sure. Because yeah, and again, I can't even imagine like what like an OJ gets or like a John gets or something. It's crazy shit. Monster says I still need to get Harvestella. Love the demo and even gave them feedback. Seemed great. It is great, Monster. It again. It is a magical experience. Like, and it has an absolutely enjoyable, loving, and bonker story. I love the story in that game so much. It's a lot of fun.
Could not it, like within the first 20 minutes of Harvestella, I was like, what? This has completely subverted all of my expectations.
Yes,
and
yes.
It's only been 20 minutes.
Monster Wishing Jay saying, "Sup, Jay?" Brooke, Dragon Quest 11. Yeah, 11 is amazing. Got to try it. Cold Knights saying, "Back evening, dude." Brooke Barnes says, "Okay, I will try next week." Okay, so looks like okay. So no matter what, so when Brooke breaks out Dragon Quest 11, it doesn't matter if Province Cyrodiil is releasing. It doesn't matter if I've got a new idea for a Dunmer Hexblade. I'm dropping that shit like it's hot. I'm gonna play something else. I hold me to it, Brooke. Monster says, "Love seeing all these folks doing well on YouTube. It's legit inspiring." Yeah, it's I. Hey, when everybody's eating, that's the best of all worlds, right? Well, that's when everybody's eating good. That's what we like to see. So Brooke says, "Zoo, we need to watch Howl's Moving Castle and other anime on stream with other chatters in the stream." Ooh, now that's a way. So I would love to do that, Brooke. But you want to talk about a way to take my channel out in a ball of fire? That would be the way to do it because Disney's going to kick my fucking nutsack in if I do that. Like Disney is going to have my scalp if I do that. So maybe that can be the very last thing the channel does after the farewell Liquored Up. Maybe we'll end the Liquored Up live farewell tour. We'll have a giant bar room brouhaha, and we'll put Howl's Moving Castle on and just have a good old time. And that can be how we burn the channel down, is because Disney will come and they will literally put my channel under the fucking graveyard. Like if we show that live, like that could be one way. Maybe we do that last. Let's see. We could always also just do it in the bar, and that's probably would be the better way to do that. Is just to do it in the bar, and we could just do like a community event and watch Howl's Moving Castle. I'm down for that. Like, yeah, I know we just watched Spirited Away, and that was really fun watching that at the bar. So maybe we'll throw Howl's Moving Castle on next. I'm down for that. But doing it live, oof. Like, yeah, I better be really sure about this burning the channel down thing if I'm gonna do that. Fucking EA clipped my fucking channel for 2 weeks, for like 20 plus days, like literally for just calling them cunts. So I can only imagine what Disney would do if I show one of the movies they have a rights to live and I stream that live. Like I can only imagine. Like, yeah, the mouse doesn't play. Let's see. Keithia says, as a viewer of YouTube and other platforms, I've seen many fall and I've seen many catch lightning in a bottle. Oh yeah, no, the lightning in a bottle is fun, and I think that's the honest way to put it. Like, I don't think anybody. I don't think Mr. Beast. I don't think PewDiePie. I don't think anybody expected what they got out of fucking. Like we're just, at the end of the day, and Phil kind of told me something profound. Phil's like, Zoo, you're always saying we're just quote unquote fucking YouTubers. He loves to quote me on that because I did say that. Like, yeah, we're fuck. Like, what do we take ourselves so serious? We're fucking YouTubers. And he's like, but at the same time, like when you're talking to 100, 200 plus people, yeah, you're just a YouTuber. That's true. But now you're also got an audience. So you gotta remember that. And so I'm like, damn, Phil, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, that's true. Liquored Up live cast of Fatal Fury the movie. That could be fun. That could sure be fun. So, last thing I want to kind of go over with you is, did you see this? Did you see this AI game studio that Elon Musk is talking about?
I did hear about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, basically that. Yeah, Musk is saying that he's going to produce a game studio that uses AI to fully make games, and I have some questions about this. Right. So,
Hmm.
like, first and foremost, I don't want to be the person. I don't want to be that shithead that raises my hand. But a lot of people forget that Elon's had a lot of failures. Right. So
Right.
one of the big advantages of any entrepreneur is going to be speed. So think of business like it's a turn-based strategy. I know that sounds hokey, but it's the way it is. It really is. Um, so while your opponent's getting a perfect strategy together, you move so fast that you dominate with overwhelming numbers of like the quote unquote wrong unit, and more often than not that works, but sometimes it doesn't. And so when it comes to AI making a game from scratch, first thing I would say is that video games are in the entertainment business, not the technology business. And I think this is something that a lot of people in video games get wrong. I think a lot of people think, especially tech bros, tend to come from the idea that video games are a tech. It's a tech based business. It's not. It's an entertainment based business, and I can prove it to you. We are right now overshooting the market, and we've probably been overshooting the market for about the last 3 generations. If you look at the chart, there's always that chart that I love to bring out. I always warn people, don't make me bring out the chart. And it shows, you know the chart, you're already laughing. Yeah, you know the chart. And it's the chart that shows, it shows the amount of technological advance that people can readily consume. And then it shows the market. And the market is way the fuck up here. And here's where people are like, okay, that's good enough. I don't really notice. And so if video games were a tech-based business, the graphics people would be a lot more prevalent in driving sales and driving patterns and trends in video games than they are, and they're not, right? So the other thing is I don't think there's any evidence that customers will consume AI generated assets. I don't. Um, I think there's a big blowback already happening to AI. In
Hmm.
customer bases. You'll see a lot of times in the forums it's like, oh, AI slop, right? And it doesn't help that
Right.
AI is starting to get a bad reputation. Did you see that itch.io is down?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know why it's down? Do you know why?
It was Funko's
AI
AI
slop.
based. Hmm.
They have some AI slop that claim the rights to some shit on it. Yeah. So that's not helping AI's reputation, I don't feel like, in the eyes of gamers. So, the thing I say is, I think that there's going to be a blowback to this. Hostile responses are going to occur to AI at worst, and at best, AI just becomes boring. Look at Pal World. Look at how that started and fizzled, right? And that's a game that
Hmm.
just used selected AI assets, let alone an AI generated game. Um, there's so many people over the years of gaming. Like, I can point to the graveyard of video game ideas. So many people are like, this is going to be the future of gaming, and it's just not the case. Remember Stadia when the
Oh yeah.
cloud was going to be the future of gaming? How'd that fucking turn out? How'd that turn out, Google? Like, not good.
Hmm. Embarrassing. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I feel like the investment in AI is not really about AI at all. It's more about getting away from these bloated AAA studio sizes, right? And I get it. I get that AAA gaming is on the chopping block. I just don't know if AI is the alternative that we're looking for, right?
No, I think that executives who, you know, by nature of their position, know the least about how any individual thing is done at the companies they run. Um, they're the least informed and the least educated on the operations of the organization. Uh,
100%.
hear that hear that there is a, and I say that myself as an executive, like
No, same
I'm
exact. We
executive
are,
director of the company I work at.
bro. We are we
So
are
like,
so compartmentalized. It's unreal.
right, exactly. So, so they hear, oh, there's this tool that can do all this work and we just have to buy it and then it's ours and we don't have to pay people to do the work anymore. That's what they've heard. That's the message they've been told. It's not correct. Like, it's AI at its best. AI is a tool that can assist a person with an activity, with a job, with a
It's not a
task.
replacement.
Um,
Yeah.
it is not a replacement for that person because for numerous reasons we could go into, but um So that's that they're pushing this because that's just what they've been told this thing is. They don't understand it. They're never going to understand it. Um, they have just been misinformed, and the people that have misinformed them had a strong financial incentive to misinform them. Sam Altman had a strong financial incentive to get people excited about GPT. Um,
Oh, 100%.
yeah. So,
Well, and look at, like, for example, and I think I think AI is the solution to the wrong problem, right? So the
mhm,
problem we have in AAA gaming is the technology they're using is too fucking expensive, right? That's what all the bloated crews are for. That's what the multi-million-dollar budgets are for. They're using this insane technology, this insane tech wall that they can't reach without bankrupting their companies. And what's happening is that the bloated crew is there because of this absurd technology we're using. Every blade of grass, for example, now has to be hand done. But here's the thing: the bloated crews and the technology are going to be one and the same. They're not going to solve the problem. Automating that with AI isn't going to solve that problem. It's just going to create more derivative assets, I feel like. So again, I don't think that's the solution. I think you need that human touch. And if you look at it, that's what I'm fighting it tooth and nail where I'm at too. Because one of the
mhm.
things I think that a lot of people are missing, because a lot of executives are compartmentalized, is as we increase our digital footprint, as the world becomes more and more digital, i.e., as the world becomes more and more fake and more simulated, I feel like more and more people are going to be crying out for a more human touch. Like the AI takes over everything model is missing that. The fact that as things digitize, people want that human connection more and more. And so I think there's a huge, huge boat that's going to be missed. I think a lot of companies are going to jump all in, and they're going to miss that human touch and that blowback to what people view as derivative and boring AI creation.
You know, that's yeah.
Optimistic of me, I know.
Right. You know what I think? So I've been thinking about this a lot for actually a long time.
Hmm.
And Elon Musk has been specifically a thought that has been in my mind as regards to the game industry for years now.
Right.
What I would like to see, because Elon Musk is a gamer. I would say he's more of a gamer than he is a CEO of anything. Like he plays video
I
games
mean,
more
if
than
he can find
anybody.
some time to CEO between Diablo 4 and his Twitter profile,
He's such a proficient video game player, and he's also rich for reasons that don't make any sense to me, but he's very rich.
well,
If he wanted to,
he's a federal contractor that makes you rich.
sure, that's where that yeah, no, I totally. Um, if Elon Musk wanted to do something for the video game industry to make a splash in the video game industry, what I think he could and should do with his ridiculous money is create a not-for-profit development studio that does nothing but produce assets. Assets
Like
that
common use
are
assets.
common use assets. You
Damn.
mentioned blades of grass. You mentioned blades of grass.
Yeah.
Somebody produces blades of grass in a variety of different colors. You know, maybe using artificial intelligent tools, they design a blade of grass and say, give me 60 variations, slight variations on this blade of grass that would make it look natural in like a patch of grass, say.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what you have is you have a whole so here's the thing. Film as an industry has democratized to an even greater extent than the video game industry has. You can take
100%.
your phone, you can take your phone, which is better than 95% of every camera that's ever existed. You can go out and you can shoot a movie on your phone. And the reason you can do that is you're not creating the assets that you're shooting. You're just going out into the world and you have access to the same assets that a Hollywood director does. Obviously, not the studio system, right? But if a Hollywood director goes out and shoots in a field somewhere, I could go out and shoot in that field and I would have
100%.
access to the same environment that that director does.
Uh huh.
Video games are a different story because if you want to have a robust graphics engine, if you want to have realistic scenery or even stylistic scenery, you have to craft all of that before you can use it in anything.
It makes it more
Now, if
challenging. Yeah.
it makes it immensely more challenging. Now, if I was a solo developer or a small team and I wanted to create a game with a more realistic, say, visual style. If I had access to free or very inexpensive assets, that would level the playing field and allow me to make whatever game I can imagine. And the reason I think Elon Musk should do this is A, he loves video games. He has too much money. This would not be a profit making machine. Like I would envision this as a service to the industry, leveling the playing field so that we get more video games, we get better video games, more choice, more experiences. And then again, it fixes the AAA problem because we don't need a game to sell a quintillion copies in order for the company to break even, because a huge portion of their asset development has been taken care of. They can just use the assets like a director, like an indie film director can go outside and shoot a scene. They have access to that asset.
I
Give
feel like that
give
would be
indie
wonderful,
developers
and it kind of fulfills my vision of a future in gaming. So one of my visions of the gaming's future is a future where we don't really have AAA game studios because, again, you mentioned the democratization of the video game. One of my predictions is that we won't have AAA studios in the future. We're going to go, ironically enough, we're going to find inspiration in gaming's roots, where average workaday people are game developers. So Richard
well,
Garriott, the first game developers weren't game developers as a career. That didn't exist. Richard Garriott's
right.
parents were astronauts. Um, Sid Meier worked in a lot of blue collar professions.
Hmm.
We're going to get back to that where the people developing the video games or the people playing the video games. So they may work a 9 to 5, and then they come home, and then because of the democratization of assets, because of tools like Blender, which allow you to create assets on the fly very quickly and cheaply, um, that's going to allow more and more people to become game developers. You're already starting to see it. Like, for example, look at the Sabotage Studios, who were able to see as stars. They were able to reach out and get contractual work on the musician who produced Chrono Trigger and get a couple songs from him. Because now you have an open music market where you can, even though I may not be a good coder, or let's say I can do the coding of the video game, but I'm not a music guy, right? I can literally go and I can subcontract out that music for my game, etc. I
Hmm.
think that's how Omori came to be. I think that was basically done by Omori Cat, and then with her contracting out what she couldn't do.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a real future in that, and that kind of an asset repository would break that future wide open.
Yeah, and it's not to say that you have to use those assets. If you
No, but they're
have
there
your own vision and you want to, or you could take an asset and modify it, or you could
with
create
Blender.
assets from
Yeah,
scratch still with Blender, whatever.
yep,
You still have those options. I just think that making tools available to reduce the workload allows smaller teams to make bigger games, more, robust, detailed environments.
yeah. The,
You
the
know,
the
it's
greatest
it.
possible future is when we are all game developers. That is the greatest
Mhm,
possible future. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. We're
mhm.
not going to get that out of Elon Musk. I can tell you that.
No,
We're
no,
not
we're
going to
not.
get
Well, I know, and Elon Musk is the subject of this pipe dream, just because he's like the only person with the
it.
money
He could
to
actually
make it
do it.
happen.
Yeah, I mean,
But
even somebody like Jeff Bezos, most of his and to be fair, it's same with Elon. He'd have to liquidate, but not as much as
sure.
people think. Actually think what you're describing, believe it or not, it would probably be remarkably cheap. He could probably do it 50 times over.
Hmm.
And again, that's one of the frustrations with these uber wealthy people. There is so much that could be done with a
They could do a
fraction.
lot. Hmm.
Even in the stuff they purport to be fans of. Like, again, he's a gamer. This
Hmm.
would benefit your ability to play amazing video games.
And their money's making money for them. So like
Correct.
they wouldn't even have to. They could just like let the rest of their money sit there, and they would make back whatever it is they spent on
Oh,
some
a thousand
altruistic
percent.
thing right away. Right.
Also, just the good publicity of something like that. There is power in that as well. And where there's power, there's money because money follows power.
Hmm.
So, 100%. But yeah, an encouraging thought that one day we will have an age where we are the game developers. We are the heroes we are looking for. Again, that's hell to get back to one of my favorite albums, the Proto Men. We stop waiting for heroes. We are the heroes we've been waiting for. We're gonna have to do it ourselves. Because I'll tell you, AAA sure isn't getting it done that much anymore. So, alrighty. Well, I think that catches us up. We're caught up on the chat. Did you have any questions for me you wanted to ask?
Oh man, how remind me, Zoo, how long have you been doing Liquored Up Live now?
Liquored Up Live, I think my first one went live about a year.
So just over a year, maybe.
Yeah, a little over a year. Yeah, it was my first October, so yeah, I'd say about a year and a half tops. But I don't think
Okay.
quite a year and a half.
Okay. Yeah, and I want to say, like, is this my third or fourth time?
Fourth time.
Fourth time. Okay. Yeah. 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 How do you feel about putting it to bed? Like, where are you at mentally, emotionally, psychologically?
Very, very well, aside from the fact that I'm not sure I'm going to be successful. You can try to kill something, it doesn't mean you'll be successful. But I'm going to try. We'll see. Again, I am open to pulling it out of the grave. I'm not gonna kill the channel. So, OJ and other folks have convinced me not to do that because usually when I pull the plug on a project, like seriously, I'm not kidding. You guys would wake up one day and it's just gone. It's just not here anymore. Yeah, the Twitter scrapped, the YouTube channel scrapped. It's just gone. But OJ and others have made a compelling case as to why that's an extraordinarily selfish thing to do. So I'm going to keep it up. And so that always leaves the opportunity that should the topic be juicy enough, or should the guest be someone I'm interested in talking to enough, could always come back. So again, I'm in a good place. I'm in as good a place as I'm going to be to attempt to kill it right now. So I better try to kill it right now. And so it's had a good run. It's had a good run, but I want to focus on some other projects now. It doesn't mean we can't do it on occasion, but I really want to try to focus and see what I can do with this new venture starting from scratch.
Very cool.
And any other questions?
That does it for me, my man. It's I didn't realize how late it was.
Beautiful. Oh yeah, it's 11:08. So yeah, it is. Time is definitely making fools of us, but it does. Everybody who comes on this fucking show knows that's going to happen. Like, yeah, these are long form conversations. Now,
I don't know how we talked
one
for
of the funnest insults slash compliments I've ever gotten is like, oh, this is kind of like the Joe Rogan, a small video game podcast, and I'm like, thank you.
I was gonna say we just talked for 3 hours and I didn't realize it. So
Well, I guess that leaves me with one final question for you, Branden from JustTheGems and the XP podcast. Did you have fun?
had a great time. Had a fantastic time.
Sounds
Thanks
good.
as
Well,
always. We
Branden, as
appreciate it.
always, thanks for coming on, man. And maybe we find if the right stars cross, maybe we do this again.
Who knows? I'm around.
All right, take care, guys. We're gonna go ahead and get in the stream now, guys. Thanks so much, everybody who came out. Love y'all as usual. Have a good night. Get the
Thanks,
fuck out of
everybody.
here.